What is up, everybody? Big shiny Sunday to yous. Or Saturday, or Monday, or whatever day it is, wherever you're tuning in from. Hope you've been enjoying your weekend so far, and things are all right in your worlds. Because we're about to climb into some deep, dark holes here, and I think really it kind of sets a precedence overall. I think this is why this is standing out the most for everyone that's involved and that's been speaking on this. It's not only that it's this big scandalous thing, I think it definitely sets a standard for the way that we perceive these families, that from the outside they can look so glamorous and so everything's so joyous and perfect and just perfectly set, like setting the stage, like as if it's theatrics, to the point that it basically is, and then we know that there's a lot of these families that have come up over the years and have their little family vlogging channels, and for a lot of people, these families, it's goals, right? Like they set the bar for what these housewives or traditional wives or whatever, these traditional kind of families, that's the image that they want to portray, so they look at these families and they think they're so together, and they take their advice and they try to live up to those standards, and in reality, you really never know what's going on behind the scenes. So, without further ado here, I was going to try for our playlist tonight, there's this crime scene playlist, so I don't know if it's like for movies, so I don't know if it's going to be too fitting for this or not, but I was going to try it out for the background here, because it kind of seems fitting, but it might be too extra, because if it's like for crime action movies, it might not be fitting, but we're going to try it out. But anyways, let's dive right into it here. It was a long time coming. Both relieved and sad. Yep. Oh, they definitely both need to be investigated. The father, for sure, needs to be investigated. Which there is actually some updates now with what's going on with the dad. I guess he was at the home yesterday. He was seen at the home yesterday. He showed up with a bag and a pillow. And I guess he hasn't been... just one sec, guys. Sorry. Let me catch up here. I'm going to have to move that around. I guess he was removed from the home sometime last year, so there has been some troubles in paradise already on that front. Now, whether he was asked to leave by Ruby or if they fought and he chose to leave, I don't really know for sure. That would be speculation. But we're going to jump into it, and we're going to discuss and look at the facts as we know them currently. Okay. Let me just rejigger this a tiny bit here. And I don't know why the music's not musicking. Oh, there it is. It's just really quiet. Cliff notes. Wondering as the audience is just as guilty. Well, I mean, to an extent, like, guilty by association, perhaps, to an extent, but really, I mean, what are people gonna know? And we know that for the past couple of years, people have been trying to, report them and get some investigation done and get somebody looking into it, just for what they've been displaying on the channel, like, for what those, the big two incidents that people, had latched onto the most were, the punishment styles, where the oldest son hadn't had his own bedroom for like several months at one point for pulling a prank on the younger brother. And then all the kids having to make all their own lunches and be responsible for their own lunch. So the one little girl, the 6-year-old, she'd forgotten to make her lunch or hadn't made her lunch the night before or whatever. There's, it's splitting hairs on the details. There's different versions of that story that I've read. But basically, she didn't have a lunch at school, and they had contacted her. Contacted the mother, Ruby, and Ruby refused to go and bring her a lunch, and pretty much said, like, and I hope nobody feeds her. It's her own fault. Like, too bad for her. Which, I mean, I can get parents wanting to teach their kids some independence and to start teaching them responsibility, and that, that there's consequences to their actions. But, I mean, come on. The kid's a 6-year-old. What 6-year-old, like, they can barely count their toes, let alone, like... tell them to count their toes and spin in 3 circles and run to the end of the house and come back, and they can barely handle that shit, you know what I mean? Let alone making a lunch and trying to remember that. Or even knowing what day it is, you know, like with the weekend and things in between. If you don't remind your kids, too, like who was supposed to be reminding this daughter to get the lunch ready, you know? Like, it's just, it's silly little things like that, you know, from the surface, it maybe doesn't seem like a lot, but when you start adding it together, and then when you realize that that's the stuff that she's been willing to show, like that's what she thought was okay to post, you really got to wonder what didn't make the cut. And so at this point, you know, we've got a pretty rough idea. And again, like I was mentioning in the videos I posted about this, I'm not saying that it came out of the gate in this way. Like, there's probably been an increase in frequency and strictness and harshness as she goes, like as she's been getting the encouragement from the viewers that things started to get worse and worse. Like, that was starting to feed into whatever this darkness is that started brewing inside this woman. You never heard of the family, you don't know who they are or what happened. Basically, it's just like one of these YouTube vlogger families that got real big and famous. They had over 2 million subscribers. They were kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like the Duggars, or like that John and Kate plus 8 type kind of family. Like, on the surface, everything looks great. They were heavily religious as well. And part of what they were pushing on their channel was these strict religious practices and punishment styles. So I think that was like an additional layer that really brought concern on early on. You don't want to know the horrible woman she was having kids and exploring them on. What? Kevin's Professor ratings and reviews. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even get a chance to even dig into that yet. I forgot you mentioned that you had sent some stuff over on that. It's been just a shit show over here trying to keep up on everything, and then this happened, and I really wanted to jump on this because, like, this is like I said in the video, it's like the dark triad of cruelty to children in a labor industry, like the children's labor industry. Like, it's got all the layers, all the flavors, you know. It's got the strict cult-like organizational qualities. It's got the, you know, the fame, the child star fame and wealth. And then having, geez, like, I don't even know what the third thing would be right now. I guess just the emotional violence, and then having the encouragement from the public, you know. There's, I guess, just having, I don't know, maybe it's just the two things coming together, but it feels like a triad. It's 2 out of the 3 dark triad things, though, with having, like, it seems like very heavily narcissistic qualities on the mother's part, because really, it seems like once the channel was down, and once, like, I think that's when things really started to go wrong, and that's what the neighbors were saying, which we're going to jump into that, too. I've got a few articles here from the neighbors, some from talking about with some of the videos she had just posted that were kind of questionable. Like, days before the arrest, she had posted a 27-minute video talking about the denigrating victim, and they were talking about dishonesty and having a dark little secret. Like, it might be 5 years, 10 years, I might even take it to the grave with me, my dirty little secret, but so I don't have any outcomes and I get away with it. So this is what they were saying. Like, this is the weird thing. This is what they were saying, like, just a couple days before the arrest happened. So it really just makes you wonder what's been going on, and we're going to dive right into it. We're going to check out what was going on with the husband, and yeah, I'm definitely going to check on that, Jamie. I appreciate you sent some more stuff over with regards to that, so I'm going to sift through that. Oh, boy. Oh, you went, like, deep dive. My goodness. I figured you meant, like, you just sent over some links or whatever. Oh, I should have checked this out sooner. Like I said, it's been a juggling match just with everything going on as it is, and then this came up, and I kind of had to rejigger things and move some things around to make this happen and to get on it and to do the videos and be able to do this stream. So I apologize, Jamie, that I was not more on top of that, but I mean, either way, we're here now and we'll run through it. But yeah, it's setting a whole new precedence with because I guess the dark triad would be the secrecy. Like the third thing would be the secrecy and the isolation and how they're so far and removed away from everything, where at least with child stars, you know, there is some people put in place to protect them. Like there is some regulatory practices and rules and regulations and different people checking on to make sure that things are going the way that they're supposed to when it comes to filming with kids or any kind of child labor or whatever, you know what I mean? Like when you're working with a production company or a management company and you know, in Hollywood, there is a little more of a barrier there that can protect the children. But when it's within the home and you're running, it's, you know, the mom's the manager and the parent and the disciplinarian, and like now you're also in this cult like situation, obviously it can get really dark really fast. So actually, let's start over here. Let's keep going down this article here first, and then we'll jump into stuff with the dad. Because like I said, the dad was seen at the home yesterday, coming back to the home. So again, like I was saying in the video too, like we don't really know the level of complacency that the dad had. I mean, it seems like he would be an accomplice and that he's complicit, being that, you know, he was in the videos and he's in the situation with everybody, and it's like, you know, he's all part of it. He's involved in it. He's in the pictures. He's the dad. So obviously, right off the bat, he is a willing participant, right? So, yeah, okay. I'm just checking what order we got these in here. Sorry, guys. we're winging her. We're winging it here. Cults to Consciousness did a whole video earlier today about the family. Oh, right on. I love that channel. I'm not gonna lie. That they're like, she does it really well. The interviews she does, I've seen a couple of them, and actually we watched one of them, the one stream about Scientology before the Leah Remini thing. When I guess around the time when the Danny Masterson thing was happening. We checked out a video with her where she was interviewing a former Scientologist that had grown up in the cult. And yeah, she does it really well. She's really, like, put together as far as I would be concerned, you know, put together as far as, being able to pull the things out of people that are a dark thing to talk about, but being able to keep it a soft and light, comedic atmosphere. You know, she's really, really well read in that, and the fact that, you know, they're all coming from different kinds of cults, and being able to meet in the middle and find that crossover of the things that they relate to, and the traumas, this having the same flavor of trauma, you know, that some of the settings and the people and the faces and the titles are different, but it's the same flavor. So in the video right before the arrest, they were asserting that, like, the Jody woman was saying that she can be dishonest and that she thinks she's getting away with it because nobody knows. Or Ruby, sorry, I apologize. Ruby had said that she wants to control everything around her so she can be comfortable, and she refuses to take responsibility. So it was like, almost like she was willing to be caught. I feel like eventually her guilty conscience caught up, and she was willing to be caught. Because even if they weren't about to catch her, you know, even if the kid hadn't escaped the window that day, I feel like it was coming. I feel like it was coming, that she was sitting on some stuff. Even though you may not sense them, even though you may not overly experience them from in the tangible world, you're having spiritual outcomes, just like you're having an outcome taking a... So she was almost trying to school herself, I think. You know, it really sounds like they knew. And the dad had to have known the conditions that these kids were being held under. And then I'm wondering, too, where were the other kids? Like, why were only 2 of the youngest kids here in this house with these women? And then where were the rest of the children? You know, I've got a lot of questions. So we're going to go through it. We're going to run through some of these articles. We're going to discuss everything. This is the whole deep dive portion of it. You know, in the videos I posted, it's mostly just kind of the intro to the situation. But it's a situation. So she removed the channel last year. See, I'm wondering too if it's whether that she had actually removed the channel herself or if it was terminated, because the connections pardon me, the connections channel was taken down as well, and so I don't know. I'm wondering if they would have gone ahead and done that themselves, or if that YouTube finally stepped up because of the, you know, all the amounts of reports that they were receiving. Like, this has been 2 years that people have been pointing out. And like there's hour-long compilations from 2 years ago of all the horrible things that these people have been doing to their kids, all the weird things, all the strange, the emotional violence too, like, which we talk about here a lot, that I think is, we do need to bring a lot more awareness to in society, that there's so many little, passive aggressive, undercutting, different little ways that people are committing emotional terrorism and violence to their children. And like, people don't even realize it until they're adults sometimes, and looking back, seeing what some of the things that they were saying to their kids and some of the ways that they were being punished, or some of the different things that were happening to them that as kids they just thought it was normal. That's all they knew. But as they come into adulthood, or they start having kids of their own, and they're realizing, like, what the hell? Like, why, how could my mother or father say these types of things to me, you know what I mean? Or do these types of things to me? So I think we do need to put a lot more emphasis on the weight of that, because just because a kid's not being beat up, or, you're not seeing physical evidence of abuse, that doesn't mean there's not abuse happening. And just because everything looks nice and pretty on the outside, shiny, happy people on the outside, a lot of darkness behind doors where happy little wreaths are hung. There's so much more there that I think, because of the affluence, and because if somebody has a lot of power or influence in a community, and wealth, that people are going to be a lot more ignorant to what might be happening behind closed doors. And then so therefore, for what they're getting away with, like what she's saying here, like, oh, my dirty little secret, so if I don't have any outcomes, I can get away with it, you know what I mean? Like, so if there's no consequences, and if they keep getting away with stuff, and they keep, pushing the envelope and raising the bar at the types of abuse that they're committing against their kids, or the types of punishments, which, like I was saying, because they were getting such encouragement, and they had so many, like, fans, I guess, supporting their religious beliefs, their lifestyle choices, those punishment styles, it was almost like they were egging them on to push the envelope even further. So I think it's really interesting to study that at this point in time as well, because this is all very new. Like, they're pioneers on the forefront of child cruelty, because we've never had anything like this before. It's a whole new precedent, right? So I think we really need to take a look at this stuff, and we can learn a lot about, society and humans as a whole, by isolating these cases and picking it apart. So August 30th, they got a statement from Public Safety Department that was shared with the Insider, that the law enforcement received a call about a badly malnourished child. He had duct tape on their ankles, wrists, and so on and so forth. I guess we don't need to go into the grisly details too much here. You guys know what happened. The little boy climbed out the window. He escaped out of a window and ran to a neighbor's to get help, and he was in a bad way. And I guess the neighbors had been calling. They'd been calling for a while. So here, let's go to that part of it, to the neighbors here. Some of the neighbors had said that they were fearing that the kids were going to be brought out of the house in body bags. So that goes to show that there's been so much more going on behind the scenes and around, and that people have been trying to get these kids help for a long time here. Let me catch up with you guys in the chat here quick. I'm getting ahead of ourselves here. Try to look at the channel. Yeah, the channel doesn't exist anymore. None of the channels exist, so that's what makes me wonder if it's that YouTube took action, which I would be happy to hear that YouTube actually took the action rather than them deleting the channels, because I really actually find it hard to believe, too, that she would have gone ahead and deleted the channel, and the excuses for deleting the channel didn't seem very sufficient to me, anyway. Second most recent, you can read them if you like. Took the screenshots aside. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, we'll jump right into it. I have a few articles here, but aside from that, we're kind of just going to be winging it, and just kind of expanding on what I went into in those videos I posted. Hey, Ann Lily, welcome. Love hearing your input. Thank you. Can I recommend Carl Crusher's video? He was in the family's life, and the rabbit hole is deep. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let me look that up. Awesome. Thank you for that. So that's what we're here for. It is a group effort. It's a group discussion. So we definitely want to look into all the different quarters and uncover as much as we can with this tonight. I'm just looking it up here. Utah Mormon YouTube is arrested. Part 2. Okay, I found what you're talking about here, and if we got time, we'll dig into that, but we might have to save it to another evening because it looks like a pretty long freaking video. But I mean, this is going to be an ongoing situation, and we do want to keep digging into this on all sides of it, so we can kind of start learning too what the warning signs are going to be for these different channels. You know, like, we've got channels blowing up left and right all over the place, and more it's increasing as time goes on here, especially after the pandemic. Like, everybody's stuck at home and people had lost their jobs or whatever, so people are getting desperate, you know. And maybe not even just out of desperation, but just like, what else do we do while we're all stuck at home and kids can't go to school? So I think out of the pandemic, a lot of new family vlog type channels were birthed. So definitely to pick this to pieces and to really look and analyze where things started going wrong, or what was wrong to begin with, you know, to be able to see the warning signs, you know, before the point of the kids being, like, physically abused or restrained or, you know, tied up with duct tape in this woman's damn basement. Like, we should be able to prevent that. We need to be more proactive as a society, and in any case, with any type of child abuse. You know, we've been working already for years to be more preventative and more proactive with, you know, the more sinister types of child abuse. I don't want to go ahead and go right into it, but you guys know what I mean by that. You know, even that, trying to be more preventative and recognizing the warning signs of that over the years. I think we've made, you know, strides in that. But overall, you know, like, when it comes to the emotional violence, we definitely need to pay more attention to that and be more aware of that, because this is where it starts. You know, it doesn't generally start out with being the extremes, right? I heard part of Carl Crusher's take from the Dad Challenge podcast or whatever. Eek. Okay, yeah, so we'll touch on it. I'll check it out. We'll get through the articles, and we'll get through the intro and everything that we got going here, and then we'll see where it takes us. Part of the reviews I sent about how awful Kevin was a professor sounded like how Ruby acts, so he's not a safe parent either. Ooh. See, and that's what I wondered, if he had just chosen to remove himself, so if anything went down, that he'd still be able to step back in, or if there was a domestic dispute, or what the case may have been. Hey, Matt Bryant, welcome back. Was at the ER with one kid and told the police they wanted to speak to her, and she took off. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. So definitely, as I suspected, there is so many more deeper, darker things behind the scenes here. And like I mentioned in the video, this is just when they got caught. This is just a situation where the kid had escaped, and then got caught. So you got to wonder what more horrors have happened in the background that, you know, that went unreported and unseen. And honestly, too, like, this is in the middle of frigging nowhere. Like, yes, it's near a town. Yes, there's people around, like, there is neighbors and stuff. It's somewhere in here, from what I've gathered. But there are neighbors around, but if the kids wanted to run and escape, and if it was in the middle of the night, and depending, and, like, if they were worried about speaking to people outside of their religion and stuff too, like they didn't even want to tell the people why the duct tape was, like, the young boy didn't want to talk about why the duct tape was on his ankles and stuff. Like, he was so afraid of getting in trouble, but he was so hungry and needed water or whatever and wanted help for him and his sister, so he got out, but then he didn't want to tell them anything. He was so afraid of the outside people knowing what was going on. So to be even able to escape, and then where are you going to go? Like, and how many of these people are all part of the same little group of, you know, the same religion or the same organization, you know what I mean, too? So it is quite a ways away, and if they wanted to run and get some real help, you know, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and if it's dark, it gets real cold out there too, from what I understand. Certain times of the year and at night, like, it's hot in the day, but then cold at night. Sometimes it takes you looking at how small and innocent a child is and realize what's expected of you at that age for you to realize that there was something wrong. Yes. A few have made some videos about the whole family, sisters, brothers, and their swinging parties. Oh, man. See, I had a feeling there was so much more going on here. I definitely had a feeling, and, you know, some people had been speculating whether or not Jody and Ruby had some more type of a partnership beyond business, too. Like, and of course this is just speculation, and there's rumors and, you know, whatever. But obviously there's a reason that the daughter escaped and wanted to get out and has started speaking out about it, you know, within this past year, and everybody's been pointed out, like, but we need to react quicker. Like, this is, I guess, the point I want to get to tonight, is that there needs to be a better reaction time. Like, when we start seeing the early signs, when we start seeing questionable things happening and things that make you go, huh, like, that doesn't seem right, or that, totally seems awkward or cringy or makes you uncomfortable to see a child in that situation, like that shit needs to be reported to somebody. And obviously too, like, with more weight needs to be taken to these reports. Like, just because there is affluence, just because they're wealthy and it seems like everything's together, doesn't mean that there's not deep dark shit happening in the background. So let's run through this article. We're gonna keep talking our ear off here and we're never gonna get anywhere. But so, okay, hold on, let me turn this down a little bit. It's a little bit noisy in my ear. Okay, so the neighbors of the recently arrested YouTube family vlogger Ruby Franke were reportedly not surprised to see her Utah home was swarmed by police. Some were just happy that the authorities were not pulling bodies from the house, which of course anybody would be happy that was not the case. Everyone is just breathing a collective sigh of relief because we thought they were going to come out of that house in body bags, one of the neighbors told NBC News. 41-year-old mother of 6 was arrested this week and charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse after one of her sons escaped the home and sought help, suffering from malnourishment, malnutrition, and evidence of being bound. I'm going to just skip this. We don't need to go too deep into the grisly details. Both Ms. Franke, they're saying Ms., so I'm wondering if they were starting to go through a divorce or not, her and Kevin. I'm not really sure now, but they're saying Ms., so maybe she's not. I don't know. We're going to dive into that too, though, but let's keep going here. They've both been charged with 6 felony counts of aggravated child abuse. Ms. Franke was arrested 30th August. Neighbors said that Ms. Franke frequently butted into their lives. One recalled her giving them a lecture about having photos of women modeling in shorts hanging inside their garage. Like she's the voice of righteousness, eh? Oh my goodness. They also accused her of punishing her children by withholding food as punishment, which, yeah, there's no excuse for them to be malnourished, so obviously there's withholding of food. That seems pretty damn clear. And I mean, after losing the channel and the children not being a commodity to her anymore, it seems like things probably got a lot worse after that, and then she was, punishing them for whatever in a more harsh way, and like withholding the food and whatever, and probably making them feel guilty that they weren't as well behaved enough, that she, like, from the way that it's been said, like the way from what I'm reading, it sounds like she's upset that the kids were so badly behaved that she had to punish them in such a way that now she's caught. That if only they just behaved better and listened better and did things better, that she wouldn't have to abuse them in such a way, which is so backwards and wrong. But this is what it seems like it is what it got to. So I think it was getting to the point she's like, well, now I have to figure out how to get this income myself, and I can't use you kids anymore because you're so badly behaved and the punishments got out of control. So then it was almost like she was punishing them for not being able to punish them and post it on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, that, it's so hard to explain, but this is why this mental violence and emotional violence aspect of child abuse is so insidious and so hard to pick apart and so hard to detect, right? So this is why, as a society, we do need to study this more closely and have a better understanding as a whole to be able to prevent this, man. Because, I mean, yeah, people were seeing the signs 2 years ago, so why wasn't anything done? Why did it take this long to the point the kid's tied up in duct tape and having to climb out a window because he's hungry and thirsty? You know? She took Christmas away from them one year. She would say things like, they're not repenting correctly, which is a Mormon term for they're sinning, which is just complete insanity. And I agree. Despite the extreme control she seemed to want to exert over her children, neighbors said that she would regularly disappear for weeks at a time and leaving them home alone. So, like, just expecting the older kids to look after the younger kids, I guess. But, I mean, that's no way of living either. You're robbing one childhood for another childhood, and it's almost like living on borrowed time with your kid's childhood, you know? In early 2022, it started getting weird. A neighbor told Rolling Stone people were concerned because Ruby completely stopped her YouTube stuff, and then it just kind of turned dark. She taped up paper all over her windows. She would disappear for weeks at a time, and then there's all these little kids just left alone in the house. So definitely, like, as soon as they stopped being the source of income and the commodity, the asset, it's like everything just totally flipped. You know what I mean? And that's the dark part about it, is like she's saying she had quit the channel and took the channel down for the sake of the children because it was ruining them or it was damaging them in such a way that they were becoming spoiled or entitled or whatever the heck crazy excuses she was making. And explanation she gave for getting rid of the channel, but it goes to show that it had nothing to do with the well-being of the children. You know, why suddenly are you walking out the windows and stuff? Like, that's spooky. Like, what did you start doing with these kids? And why were they tied up? Why are you shooting in this remote location in the outskirts of Utah with this weird woman that has this weird little cult that apparently is supposed to be teaching the development of familial relations and development of children and training and coaching, bettering your children's development or whatever. I don't even know how to explain it because it's so just a bunch of bullshit, but okay, let me catch up with you guys here again. One second. Hey, welcome Aaron, welcome new folks, everybody joining us here. Sorry I'm not catching up with the chat as well here. It keeps jumping up too, and so I have to refresh it. But we got a lot to cover, so I'm trying to just drive through her here. Hey, Chris Sean's here, Zombie Conlin's here, everybody's here. Welcome, folks. I believe it said that she had a family friend try to get the girls because there was a family emergency. St. George can really be hot in certain areas, and the nights can be really cold. Yes. Yeah, so you got to think of when these opportunities would be for them to escape would likely be at night. You know, and I guess they got to a point of desperation. This little boy got to the point of desperation. He went ahead and just went to the neighbors. But you got to think of the amount of fear and control and, like, worrying about not succeeding in the escape and what would happen to you if you get caught and brought back home. You know, like, there's so many things that would have been binding these children and controlling them and keeping them in prison that wouldn't have been a physical thing either, you know? Her youngest daughter, Eve, now 10, would allegedly be left to wander the neighborhood to look for friends. She would just knock on your door and say, "Hi, can your kids play?" And the neighbors said, and we're like, "Well, they're at school. They won't be home for 3 or 4 hours." And she'd be like, "I'll wait." Wow. So it's like they stopped home. Like she was supposed to be homeschooling the kids too, from what I understand. But I guess that all went out the window too. As soon as it stopped being an income, everything went out the friggin' window, is what it looks like here, which really goes to show, you know, the degree of love and care is going into some of these family relationships, you know, that on the surface and, like I said, on the outside, it all looks so loving and so perfect. Picture fucking perfect. You know, it's the perfect portraits every time. But this is like, this is such the perfect example of all these things, of all these families. Like, this isn't just these families on the internet either. Like, how many families living in these affluent neighborhoods have so many dark things going on behind the scenes that we would never know? Like, at least this way, she was posted evidence for the past couple of years, and it's all going to come against her at this point. Like, she's facing 15 years and $10,000 fines for each count. So, like, she's going away for a long time. And I hope she does anyway. I mean, who knows if she does end up being able to find her way out of this or not. I hope she doesn't, because she definitely deserves what's coming to her here. But the man said that it's like she's like this lost child, and it seemed as though she wasn't enrolled in school. Police reportedly found the 10-year-old malnourished and suffering similar restraint lacerations as the 12-year-old. So why were these kids, like, why were they even tied up, I guess, is the next question, you know? And in the video I shared, I shared some clips of this analysis that Dr. Todd Grand had done. And he had suggested that because they were having to try to do these videos, and because it seems like they had the setup in a pretty open area in the kitchen, and like where they were sitting on the couch here, like this is where they were filming videos. This is where they had their whole setup and trying to film videos for the new channel, the Connections channel, and that they needed the children to be quiet and not be interrupting the filming and stuff. So they, you know, as a I guess a last resort, chose to tie up the kids. But I mean, if the kids are hungry and needing attention and needing your like support and needing some direction, like wouldn't you just put them in school, or why wouldn't you just have them in a daycare or have a babysitter or somebody come take care of them if they're interrupting? So then my next question is that part of what they were filming? I guess, would be my next question. Do you know what I mean? And again, speculation. I'm not saying anything for sure, and it's turning my stomach really, even just after I said that, my stomach lurched. Like, I'm feeling a little sick to my stomach even to think that would be the possibility. But why would the older kids be gone and the younger kids be the ones there alone in this remote location tied up, and they've got the setting wide open in the living room here or whatever, and the kid had escaped through a window. So if they were, I don't want to go too deep in details on what the potential is going on with that, but I'm just going to give you that little bit of paint you a little bit of a picture of the potential and possibility of what was freaking going on here, because none of it makes sense to me, even if it was that they were causing too much ruckus when they were trying to film. Put them outside, send them outside. You had no problem letting your 10-year-old wander up and down the street. So why were the kids tied up? And apparently they found a panic room in when the police were investigating as well, in the garage, behind the garage or something to that effect, which we'll have to dig into that too a little later on here. But oh man, there is a lot of darkness here, and I think a lot more is going to come out. I suspect there is a lot more going on, and if they had the weird swingers stuff going on and like completely leaving the kids to their own devices, but while being on the high horse of righteousness, self-righteousness, and lecturing people about having nudie posters in their garage, like dude's out there trying to work on his motorcycle or something, or trying to do his dad stuff and have a beer after work, and he's got like his whatever Playboy poster up in the garage, and she comes over and she's lecturing about that. Meanwhile, like, are we freaking kidding here? And I guess, so that's the thing, too, is that the channel gained its notoriety and gained popularity because of the severity of the punish that she was doling out to her children. Like, the literal psychological warfare that was happening in that household. Showed an exchange between her and one of her older sons, who said that he'd been sleeping on a beanbag for months as punishment for pranking his younger brother. And then again, the daughter's lunch. It's just craziness. And a young boy like that, he's coming into his teen years, and there's different things as when you're growing up that you need your privacy, man. You need to have your own space. You need to be able to explore your own, budding teenage thoughts and feelings and whatever stuff going on for a teenage boy. There's things, body changes are happening. You're going through puberty. It's already a really fucking confusing time without having to live it out in the middle of the fucking living room, sleeping on a beanbag chair for several months. Like, that's intense. That's just freaking, that's psychological warfare. Like, that's emotional fucking violence. Okay, so I guess the neighbors had tried to contact and get them help several times. So that's where this is really concerning too, that of course, because of the affluence, because of it being like, we have this YouTube channel, and we're giving advice on parenting, and like, we know what's right for your kids, and we know what we're doing. Like, everything's all great on the outside. Look at our family pictures. Look at our, all this stuff. Just one sec. I'm going to try to find this article a different way so that we can, I gotta log in or something here. Just one sec. I want to be able to read this article, but I gotta log in here first. 1 second, guys. Sorry. But yeah, so all these other affluent neighbors had called to get these kids some help, and even then it was still falling on deaf ears and nothing was done. So it just goes to show the weight of people's perception from the outside and how it looks from the outside, and how, all of this can be so misconstrued to being, written off as nothing, but then really, it has to come to this for something to be done, with all these warnings, with all these neighbors calling in, with all these people on YouTube calling it out and asking for people to look into it. Like, there's no way they got away with it this long, unless, unless there's all more to the whole story in different ways, as far as, I don't want to go too deep into the conspiracy side of that, or speculatory side of it, but there's only so many ways people can be getting away with this, and it depends on, I guess, with this religious organization that they were a part of, how far-reaching that was, and what kind of influence that would have, as far as having protection within the community, I guess would be my next question. So, Ivan's Utah resident who lives nearby the family and asked not to be named for privacy, Said that he and other neighbors had called the police multiple times out of concern for the children. Notes that there were weeks at a time that they appeared to be left at home alone. The Santa Clarence Ivans Police Department did not respond for a request to comment, which is different too. That's a little strange. Usually the police have no problem making a statement or commenting on a situation, but obviously they fumbled and messed up big time. Like, whether they were choosing to be ignorant to it and are turning a blind eye due to ignorance or due to whatever reasons, or whether they, you know, whatever the big case may be, they definitely know that they screwed up. That's for damn sure. Oh, cops are called several times. They would come and they knock on the door and nobody would open the door. Yeah, so they would just ignore it. Yeah, and then the cops would go away, because if they have no actual evidence or suspicion of like reasonable cause of a crime being committed, then there's nothing they can do. And if they won't come to the door and talk to them, there's literally nothing they can do by law, which is pretty screwed up. When it comes to children, like, come on, something like that needs to change. There definitely needs to be a revision as far as how this stuff is handled and dealt with. For the last 3 years, we've kept quiet on the subject of our sister, Ruby Franke, for the sake of her children. Okay, so this was oh, I just skipped ahead here. Okay, so Frankie's sisters, Ellie. Oh, this is the other thing. Like, they all have YouTube channels too. So, and then they're like, oh, we're the good sister, she's the bad one. Like, oh no, and we were worried about her. But this whole family, all of them should be investigated, I would say, and especially the husband too, which we're gonna get to that here in a minute, because he was at the house yesterday. There is updates to the husband, and I guess he did sort of make a statement. His lawyer made a statement, so we're gonna jump into that too. Or dive into that too. So the sisters Ellie Metcham, Julie DeRue, and Bonnie Holine, who are also family content creators, called the YouTubers' arrest something that needed to happen, and said keeping Frankie's children safe is their only priority. For the last 3 years, we've kept quiet on the subject of her sister Ruby Franke for the sake of her children. I'm sorry. What? You were protecting the children by not saying anything about the abuse she was committing against her children? Like, what? Definitely, these women need to be all investigated, because that makes zero freaking sense. You kept quiet about the potential of child abuse to protect the children. Sorry, A plus B does not equal... I'm sorry, I'm going to need a second to just absorb that. Wow. Behind the public scene, we've done everything we could to try to make sure the kids were safe. No, you didn't. Doesn't seem like you did anyway. We wouldn't feel right about moving forward with regular content without addressing the most recent events. Once we do, we will not be commenting on it further. She was arrested, which needed to happen. Jody was arrested, which needed to happen. The kids are now safe, which is the number one priority. I want to believe that. Absolutely, I want to believe that they had been doing everything they could, and we're trying to also make reports, and we're also trying to step in and have the kids out of the house when they could. Like, maybe this is where the other kids were at the time, or, you know, maybe they were at school, or I don't even know. Who knows where the other kids were at this time. But I mean, yes, the kids are now safe. That is the main thing. Absolutely. And then the eldest daughter, like, it's gonna blow up. There's gonna be so much more to this too, because the daughter Sherry is putting together evidence. Like, she had documented stuff over the years and had evidence of abuse and different things, but really, I guess she was just so afraid to go up against her mother, you know? Like, you got to think of, with this type of mental violence and terrorism and emotional, you know, brainwashing and stuff, like, really straight brainwashing and control that she had over her kids. Like, I could understand that Sherry would have the fear until the mother was formally arrested and can't go anywhere. She's held on without bail, so she can't go anywhere. So now Sherry is feeling safe. So she's saying that she's planning to bring forth more evidence in the case. But the eldest daughter said, who is estranged from her parents, also spoke out about the arrest on her Instagram on Thursday. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this, and so glad they finally decided to step up. The kids are safe, but there's a long road ahead. Please keep them in your prayers, but also respect their privacy. Absolutely, you know, and I kind of feel bad in a way that it is getting put all on blast all over the internet and all over the media and whatever, but if for no other reason, like, what we do here, this isn't to be for shock value or sensationalism or to be like, you know, crime porn. We're not here to be like, oh my goodness, it's so wild. Like, yes, that is the aspect. It is crazy. It is a crazy situation, but there's so much that can be learned here with the prevention, with further prevention of this kind of stuff, and being able to be proactive, and like I said, to be able to recognize the warning signs early on, and nip it in the bud sooner, because exactly like the daughter just said, for years, their own daughter, for years, trying to get help for her and her siblings. Kind of like her kids, though, because it seems like the older siblings were needing to take care of them. And also, okay, so there's that, too, that after the channel went down, Sherry's gone. So you also have to assume that there's a high likelihood that Sherry was one of the main caretakers for the children, too. Like, I think there's you know, something to be said there on that if the care of the children got to such a point, like now, that there's probably a good chance that it was because Sherry was a big part of helping take care of all of them, because that is a lot of kids to take care of, you know. And with the other oldest being the son, then, you know, I feel like things would have kind of all gone to shit that way too once Sherry had removed herself, right? So but then having removed herself, having the footing, and then still, you know, there being these CPS visits and having the cops show up and then still nothing being done, like, that needs to change. That needs to change. There needs to be different laws put in place with what the cops are able to do, like that they need to see the children, and that the children are safe before leaving if they're being called to check on children, to check on the welfare of children, you know? They shouldn't just knock on the door, wait a few minutes, and if they're not answering, just leave, like, because the kids could be tied up in the fucking basement as they were right then, as we speak, you know what I mean? Like, something needs to change there. People don't realize they're not raising children and that they're raising adults. Why would you want to raise people with no expectation of privacy or body autonomy? Well, unless you're raising them to be part of this crazy-ass cult that you got going on. Like, that's the thing, too, is it's like, it's one thing to join a cult as an adult and then to try to conform to those practices and to go along with whatever the, you know, educating yourself on that and then going along with it and spreading the word of that. But then it's another thing to bring kids into that and have them growing up in it and having they don't know anything else. And they're not given the freaking choice whether or not they want to be part of this. That's just all they know. And then they grow up and their whole life is so warped and skewed because they have no real concept of, like, the real world outside of whatever this nonsense is. And then if everything in your life, too, like, you got to think, like, it's not even just like with child stardom where you got to fake it and put on the act for however long. And, you know, you're doing these meet and greets and touring around and doing press junkets and red carpet events and all this stuff, and you got to put a face on for that, right? With this, it's like these kids were always expected to be on, you know, like they were always having to put on a show, always having to be theatrical and doing these videos for the channel, all this stuff. Like, they literally never had their own sense of autonomy whatsoever. Forget just body autonomy with their own sense of self that way, but just individual thought autonomy, you know what I mean? Yeah, so my guess would be that they did end up shutting the channels down, and that when she moved over the connections, because if she had been shut down, she wouldn't have been able to go be part of it, right? Like, if she was going and trying to sidestep her shutdown by going and joining another channel, that would have gotten that channel removed as well. Would be my understanding of it anyway. I can't say for sure. That's just speculation in my opinion. But I'm thinking that, yeah, because if many of her videos were focused on the discipline and the punishments that she was giving, and she was getting all this pushback, and people were probably reporting her on a regular basis. Removing bedroom doors, threatening to throw away toys and clothes with sentimental value. That's fucked up. Oh, yeah. There was something about one of the toys got dirty or messy or ripped or something like that, with the kid's stuffed animal or whatever that was from his childhood, from when he was young or whatever, younger, and they were going to throw it out on him because he wasn't taking care of it properly, but he just had it forever, and it was the wear and tear, like something like that. I don't know for sure. I'd have to double check on that, but there was something weird about the sentimental toy that this kid had, and that they were threatening to throw it out, and it was just a really messed up situation. It didn't seem right. It's like, this was mental torture for the sake of entertainment, really. Like, the more I'm digging into this is what this sounds like. if it was ever increasing punishments and that was the main primary focus of the channel, like, she'd be trying to invent new and innovative ways to be punishing them and to be torturing them in a way, you know? And one of the child abuse accounts is torture. So whether that's physical and or mental, you know, I guess we'll find out as time goes on here. Taken in police custody after child escape. Remnants of, unclear, one of the 6 children. Well, we know it was one of the children. One of her children, but this was probably one of the earlier posts. Oh, was there another child? There was a third child. There was a third child that may or may not have been one of Franke's 6 children. And then her 2 kids. So what the frig were they filming in this house? What the heck was going on in here? I hope they seized all the video, everything. Like, I hope they thoroughly investigate this situation, because my gut is doing backflips right now. Like, there's something grimy. There's something way grimier that was going on here. Oh, man, I'm like, that's a big cringe factor, or whatever the word. That's not even the word for it. I don't think there's even a word for what I'm feeling inside right now about this. Who is this third kid too then? Like, what? That's news to me. Okay, well, whatever. We're digging into it. We're going deeper. Okay, so the dad was there yesterday, I guess. So there has been some more of an update on that, so we will go into that now at this point, because definitely I think this dad needs to be investigated as well. He did have involvement with the Connections cult, and obviously with the channel, and featured in all the pictures, and like, he's a big part of it. It's the family. It's a family vlogging channel. He was a part of it, and there's no way this guy didn't know the conditions these kids were being held under and what was going on behind the scenes. Like, you could only plead denial and you know, plausible deniability for so long. You know what I mean? I don't hold Sherry accountability due to what was normalized for her. Plus, she's not that old. I'm glad she's separated. Yes. Oh, for sure. I don't think, in saying that, I wasn't saying that I would think that she would have been responsible by any means. What I was saying is I think that she was a big help with maintaining the household day-to-day chores and with the kids and keeping up with everything. And that her leaving the home was a detriment to the overall control factor and being able to keep up with everything. That once Ruby was left to her own devices and having to care for her own children on her own, that she was incapable of doing so, and that, you know, it went to extreme measures, to the point that she's arrested. Right? Nothing to do with it. The absolute privacy had nothing to do with it. The absolute irony of that. Yeah, exactly, Aaron. I know. 170 videos. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so he's been following it for a long time. Yeah, I watched a couple of his videos, Jamie. Marky. He's been on top of that for sure. And I'd thought about looking into it more a few months ago when the stuff with the daughter was coming out. Like, we touched on that, and you know, when with the stuff with the Scientology, the Danny Masterson trial, like, we've kind of been ongoing discussing some of these organizations and cults for a while, and this had come across my desk, I guess, so to speak, and I kind of looked into it, but really I was thinking, you know, we're going to have to kind of wait and see what she's going to say. Like, this, obviously there's something wild going on there. Obviously there's something there, but let's wait and see, you know. But I would have never suspected it was going to be this bad. You know what I mean? And like, with everything else I was juggling, like, there was no way I could really stop and jump on it. But, you know, at this point, with this, once it's hit this peak, and with, you know, it being as bad as it is, and worse than I think any of us could have ever imagined to begin with, you know. And this is just, these charges are just based on what they knew in the immediate moment, like what the police had investigated and what they found in that moment, right? Like, so there's going to be so much more coming out, and I think we need to prepare ourselves mentally for that, because it is really disturbing, and it really makes you, it works your gut in a big way when you start putting these pieces together, and it sucks, and it's hard, and a lot of people want to turn away from it, and they don't want to know, they don't want to be a part of it, they don't want to they'd rather, you know, put their head in the sand with this type of stuff. But these are exactly the cases that we need to put more focus on and have a better understanding so that we can prevent the harm to children in the future. You know, like society has always been more reactive rather than proactive when it comes to harm against children, and that needs to change. Like, the time is up. The time is up. Yeah. Well, I guess that was just it. They just needed to keep putting it out there and keep paying attention to it and keep talking about it. Like, thank goodness enough people were aware and were keeping on top of it from the get-go, from, you know, this whole 2 years, sticking to it. Like, that's dedication, and that, we love that here. We love a good fight against, you know, the real enemy as a whole, like the real evil entities in this world. Hey, welcome, Mellow Mango. Yeah. No, definitely. And I think a lot of people are missing these subtle nuances that are a big deal, that imply a bigger thing. You know, that's what we do here. You know, we go and we look under those deep, dark stones. Most people don't even want to consider it because that's what it is. That's the reality. We live in a dark, harsh, cruel friggin' world. And if we don't do something about it sooner than later, it's just going to keep getting worse. Like, we've ignored this stuff for so long, and the way that just the child working industry as a whole has been, you know, like the laws and, you know, the regulations with all of that, it's already needed to be reformed for a long time, and then it's just gotten worse. It's getting worse and worse. So if we don't do something, and we're not all looking at it, and we're not all talking about it, and we're not all, you know, paying attention to this stuff, as much as it makes us feel horrible in our guts, and it's so distressing and sad. Like, it's so sad. Like, I feel awful thinking what these kids must have gone through, man. Like, I'm getting, like, emotional over here over it a little bit. Like, all of the little dots being connected in my mind of the possibilities here of what more could be coming and what more these kids have probably faced. You know, it's just, anyway, okay, let's pull it together here, folks. For the sake of the children. Okay, so definitely already more details coming out, like, regarding the strenuous chores during scorching temperatures. Oh, I think I read something about that too, where they were made to be out pulling weeds on an extremely hot day, and, like, the neighbors couldn't even handle being out for a certain amount of time. Like, they were out there for a short time and then went inside because it was so hot, but the kids were still out there in the sun pulling weeds and without water, without any shade or whatever. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, just different things like that. And you got to think, each one isolated incident may not seem like such a big deal on its own, but when you start lining all this stuff up across the board and looking at everything under a microscope in such a way and putting all the little pieces together, like, that is a torturous, like, disgusting way to live. Like, that's torture. That's literal psychological warfare and torture for your entire freaking childhood. Like, the fact that these kids are, yep. No, okay, we're just going to keep it together. I could go on this whole big rant right now about it, but I think you guys are all on the same page. You guys are picking up what I'm putting down here, and kind of goes without saying. Okay, so the husband of the YouTuber that was arrested earlier this week was seen pacing around outside the home on Saturday as neighbors spoke out about their fears for the children's safety. Ruby's been arrested on 2 counts of, no, it's more than 2 counts, but that's okay. Gain fame, Ruby's husband, who she shares 6 children with, Sherry, Chad, Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve, were seen at the property on Saturday as a man came to remove the YouTube branding from the van parked outside. Okay, so he's already trying to just clean up shop here, it sounds like. Like, he's coming in doing damage control more than anything, it seems. And, like, where are the kids? Why aren't you just there with your kids and worrying about that? Like, why are you worried about getting the logo off the van? Like, why is that your priority? And not to say that he hadn't done other things behind the scenes, but I feel like that's, like, the least of your fucking worries right now, getting the sticker off the van. Neighbors said that they had been concerned about the children's well-being and once saw the kids left outside pulling weeds for hours during triple-digit temperatures. spotted the family home on Saturdays, believed to have been kicked out of the house last year. So that's the belief, but I'm wondering what all was going on with that. I feel like there's so much more to that too. And then he just shows up with his carry-on bag and a pillow, and he's like, okay, damage control, let's go. Like, I'm wondering what really the true dynamic of their relationship was, and if those rumors are true about what they were saying about swinging and about whatever. Like, I'm really wondering what type of dynamic they had, you know. It seems to me there might be just, you know, something a lot more to it, like that maybe he's taken on some kind of I don't know if we can go too deep into this. This is YouTube. We won't go there. Let's just leave that. I'll let you use your imagination what the case may be here from what we know. Okay, so they recalled the van being parked out in front of the home at the time. They noticed that they told the police the same thing 6 to 8 weeks ago when it was really hot. You were outside in the morning. They were pulling weeds, and over at Jody's home, several kids were also outside pulling the weeds. Of course, the day the temperatures were over 100 degrees, I gave up after a while because it was so hot, but I noticed the kids were still out there. The residents also noted that they never heard any sounds coming from the home, such as those of children playing outside, which they thought was unusual. On the day that a child is thought to have escaped to the window of a home before running to a neighbor, the neighbor said that they believe the child picked that particular home after they'd been given cookies by them at Christmas time and knew them to be friendly and safe enough to go to them for help. Okay, so slowly but surely they were kind of making outside connections and external allies, and with the neighbors starting to make more and more involvement, then the kids finally felt comfortable enough and safe enough to run and go and get help. They started to realize that there was outside concern and there were other nice people out there, you know. Where you got to think too that the amount of fear put into them about like strangers and stuff, like apparently they had told the police that the kids are not to be around any other children, and like there was some weird thing about what they want to be able to expose the kids to or not, you know. So having them really isolated is damaging in a lot of ways too, right? But then when they start meeting these other people who are kind of getting this feel for other people, and they realize that other people are safe, then finally they get that courage and are brave enough to go and get the help, you know. So thank goodness for that. They only charge them with the 2 counts because what they do is they only charge them with what they have the evidence out of the gate, and then after, yeah. So since that article, it's now 6 counts. So based on their initial investigation, they've had the weekend to decide, I guess, or whatever it was. Like over the weekend, it's officially charged with 6 counts, and that's just for now, because they're gonna start. Yeah, exactly. During the investigation, they'll start stacking new ones. Definitely. Loads of people that die of heat stroke every year in southern Utah. Yeah, it's extreme neglect. It's extreme neglect, and the emotional violence is so real, and we, like, as a society, we really need to take note of that, and we really need to gain an understanding of that, because that's the shit that stays forever. Like, I would have rather, you know, certain things in my childhood, I would have rather just got beat about it than have some of the things, you know, different emotional, psychological warfare that, you know, that I had to deal with as a kid. Like, that stuff sticks with you. That's the stuff you spend a lifetime trying to untangle and trying to find a way to reconcile with, and trying to find a way to understand why a parent or how a parent can behave in such a way, you know. I think to be a little forthcoming. Obviously I had a childhood with some darkness to be able to be doing this channel and looking at things the way that I do, and being able to you know, face it right into the, you know, right into the darkness and pick it apart in such a way. Have to have a little bit of experience in childhood trauma and the complexities of that, obviously, right? So may as well say it. But yeah, this is a whole nother degree. This is a whole nother degree even. Like, this isn't just snide, backhanded comments from a mother to a daughter, or a father to a son, or a father to a daughter. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't just like a comment that sticks that ends up affecting a body image, or affecting you know what I mean? Like, where a mother could say, oh, do you need more? You need to eat more of that? You know, you like, they make little comments about a child's weight or something like that, and that'll stick with them. Like, that's emotional violence. But that's just a certain degree. Like, that's a pretty mild degree of it, where compared to, like, this stuff, this is like, yeah, this is next level. Like, this is like Japanese prisoner torture type torture with the with the type of mental stuff they got going on, you know. maybe not Japanese, what's the ones? I don't know. Whatever the ones that have mastered the art of hypnosis and mind control and brainwashing and all of that. Like, these are some next level tactics. Like, they knew what they were doing, too. There's no way they couldn't have known what this was doing to these kids. Both Franke and Hildebrand had been previously criticized for their teachings on parenting, collaborating on Hildebrand's life counseling service connections, which they need to investigate that too. Somebody needs to be investigating that for how much involvement they have with people and their families. I don't know if you guys hadn't checked out my videos that I posted on this. I went into the connections thing a little bit, and they offer programs of how to better raise your children, basically, like the on childhood development and teens and the family relationships and all the stuff in between. So if these are the people behind these sorts of organizations that are supposed to be giving you advice of being a parent and advice of how to be a better person and so on and so forth, and this is what's happening behind closed doors, like, we definitely have to take everything as a grain of salt, and we have to question everything. Like, you look at how nice this connection site, if you guys, again, if you haven't checked out the video, I recommend you do so, but even just for now, if you go look up the website, the connections website, like, it looks so nice and fancy, and everything looks so put together, and it looks so legit, but what is going on, you know? Like, what is actually going on behind the scenes? And now we know, and this is obviously just one case, but this is exactly why you can't ignore the signs. You can't ignore the warnings and the people calling and trying to get these kids help. The fact that the children haven't gone into custody of any family members also speaks volumes. Absolutely. Absolutely here. Sorry, guys. Let me catch up with you. I've kind of been going on this rant and going right deep into it. What source is this? This is the Daily Mail. This one. We've got Rolling Stone, Daily Mail, Independent, page 6. We got a few different articles still to go through here, but going with some pretty reputable sources here. Yeah, disgust is the word, exactly. Yeah, torture chamber. Absolutely. It's a house of horrors. It's a house of freaking horrors. Federal is already involved? Oh, well, good. Thank goodness, because, yeah, like, definitely all of this, they need to investigate all of this on a way bigger scale. Okay, yeah. About the Sherry, yeah, I didn't think okay, maybe I was misreading what you were saying. But, yeah, the whole thing with Sherry leaving, I think that was really like the straw that broke the camel's back in a way, too, because everything was starting to come crumbling down after that, which just goes to show how much responsibility was likely being put on the daughter's shoulders with regards to the care of the other children, which that happens a lot in these families that end up having 8, 9, 10 friggin' kids. It's the older kids that are doing a lot of the parenting, and then the parents are just there for the pictures to be like, look how great we are, look at how nice, and we keep all our kids so nicely put together, and oh, look at our matching outfits, look at our big smiles, ignore the duct tape marks on the wrists, but oh, look at us, we're fancy. Yeah, it's bullshit. It's freaking bullshit. So little faith in the justice system at this point, though. Yeah, well, that's it. Like, I mean, we can only hope for the maximum sentence in this case, but really, I guess we're just going to wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see that. But yes, having no bail speaks volumes as well, that the judge is fed up. Absolutely. Got teary when somebody sent you the news. Yeah, like, this is emotional, man. Like, this is like, if you understand the depth of this kind of psychological warfare, and you understand the damage that this has done to them and what they're going to be going through as adults trying to work through this, like, this is going to be a lifelong thing they're going to be trying to heal from. Like, this journey for them is going to be a hard one, and I'm like, I'm getting emotional again just thinking about it. Like, if you don't understand the depth of it and you're not emotional about it, like, that just, like that shows that how much more that this kind of stuff needs to be studied and better understood and as a society, so that we can prevent this shit. Because, like, and they weren't even poor. Like, you have, yeah, exactly, which I said that in the videos too that I posted, was that there's not even like there was any frigging excuse for them to be malnourished. Like, if you were living in poverty and you couldn't rub two wooden nickels together to get a meal together, like, that's one thing, and that's a matter of circumstance, and that's too bad. And some people make really bad choices that leads to that, which is too bad as well. And it's not saying that that's any excuse, and that doesn't make it any more okay. There's no one or another better way to starve a kid, like, don't get me wrong, but like, it shows that was a part of the punishment, that they were choosing to withhold food. Because if you're that affluent, if you're that wealthy, there's no There's no way you're not able to feed them damn kids. So you're choosing to not feed the friggin' kids. Hey, welcome, Cynthia. Reminds me of Turpin Kids. Why is this still happening? Oh, I don't know. What's the Turpin Kids? I'll have to look into that. I don't know about that. Turpin and Valo. But this is it. These are those things. Why don't I know about that? Why aren't those things made more, well known in society? Why don't we study that more openly? Why aren't we more preventative and proactive with this stuff? When all of this stuff, like, it's not like this is the first biggest, worst child case, abuse case to ever happen. You hope the oldest sibling gets the custody of her sibling? I don't. I do not. I mean, of all people, maybe that would be the best. It's the best for them, but that oldest daughter's child has already been robbed from her of having to take care of all them damn kids the whole time, So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Mellow Mango, but at the same time, I would hope that there's different things put in place to be able to, that daughter would have help, if that was going to be the case, that she would have help with the kids, because that's not her job. They're not her kids, but if that would be the safest, best place for them, then of course, that's where I would want them to be, but it's so tricky. It's so tricky. It's such a tricky situation for what would be more damaging, too, for her healing, because all of them have been robbed of their childhoods in such a way, so they're all going to need to heal in a different way, Port of Juvenile in Need at 10:50 a.m. on Wednesday. The child was described as emaciated and malnourished with open wounds and duct tape. Yeah. What were they filming in this freaking house? What were they doing to these freaking kids in this freaking house? Where were the older kids? What was this other child going on here? There was something more dark going on here. Like, this is screaming in my tummy. My stomach is on fire right now with my gut intuition about this right now. There's something way darker going on here, and I really hope they seized all of the hard drives and the computer stuff and the video equipment, and I hope they really investigate this shit, like, thoroughly, because there's something wrong here. There's something real wrong with that. Okay, so yeah, they took the sticker off the van. It's in the shop. The heat gun. Front door. With damage. Oh, so I guess they did finally just bust in the door. Fuck. Thank goodness, man. Ah, yeah, finally. Finally is right. My goodness. Can we take a moment? Oh, yeah, you know what? We're due for a break anyway. We blew past the hour. So let's take 5. Let's take a few moments to just absorb this and let this percolate for a moment. I need a minute. I'm getting, like, my stomach's doing, like, backflips, and it's, like, feels like it's on fire right now for what, all the potential. Oh, the possibilities. I don't think that's what Fisher-Price was meaning when they said that, but, like, holy shit. Yeah, I just need a minute to collect myself even a little bit, like, this is so heavy duty, and I know you guys are right here with me on it, so I'm going to give us all a collective moment to collect ourselves. And, yeah, get a refill on coffee or whatever you might need. Smoke them if you got them. Grab another snack. Whatever you got to do, but I will be right back. We're gonna do some soft rock now. I'm just gonna change up the vibe here because it's getting too dark. We got to get through it. It needs to be done, but it's hard. It's hard. This stuff is so like, why am I doing this to myself all the time? But it needs to be done. It needs to be done. But yeah, 3 minutes, guys, at the most, and I'll be right back. we're back. Whew. Sorry about that, guys. I guess it was regular break time anyway. It kind of worked out, but I just needed a minute, man. Like, there's just so much more, I feel like, that's being implied here. You know, with the amount of research and the stuff that I know and the deep dark rabbit holes I've been down, you know, it's really hitting a chord inside me here. Like, I feel like, you know, there is so much more to this, and it's just going to get worse as the days go on. And it's just a lot. It's a lot to absorb, you know, and especially when you know the potential, and I'm sure you guys know too, and this is why we're all moved by it, because it's just devastating, man, what these kids were probably going through, and especially in those final months. I just can't even, I can't imagine, you know, I can imagine, which is the worst of it. Like, I can just imagine, and what, you know, the possibilities are just heart-wrenching. But again, like, you know, we gotta keep at this. This is the stuff that we gotta study and understand better to prevent it. We can't be out here just ignoring it like it's not happening at all and pretend like this stuff doesn't exist in the world, because it most certainly does. There's not much separation between church and state in Utah. The LDS owns a lot of property, businesses, and have a lot of influence. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like, this is this is part of the realizations too that I'm having over here, Jamie, is just the part of the influence and the power and involvement of different. Yeah, you basically said it. You basically said it right there. Like, is there more of an understanding or an agreement going on here, even within, you know, if the FBI got involved, then, like, federally, of course now the cops have to do something about it, but why did the cops not do anything about it for so long? Would be a question. You know? You're watching a part of Nick Johnson's video about Utah from 3 weeks ago, and so far it was funny and accurate. Missionary clothing, male elders, missionary clothing, LDS bookstore, so on. That's why they made me more concerning. Yesterday I found a card outside my door from the... Oh, Lord. Well, that's it, right? And there's all kinds of these different little religious organizations and, like, sub-organizations, you know, like the different spin-offs and offshoots of them, right? And then, like... So then we had the two layers, though, because then we got the LDS, like the Mormon LDS, whatever part that they're a part of, but then they also had another layer of the connections group they had started. So that was like a whole new layer of control and manipulation and all these fucking the dark psychological tactics that they can be using to maintain the control and to maintain whatever image that they're trying to uphold, right? But yeah, sorry guys, I'm sorry I'm not keeping up with chat as good here. Chat's on fire. Reminds you, oh, yep. Yep, that too, that got worse over COVID because the negative effects of isolation of mental health, and she lost her mind and everyone tuned in. Absolutely. Well, they had the channel since like 2015, I think. But definitely over the pandemic, in the past 3 years, people, as a consensus, is saying that over the past 3 years, it got way worse. Yeah, well, that's the thing too. If there's a jury trial, like, I don't know though. I don't know how it's gonna go. I think there's still gonna be a lot of investigating that's gonna need to happen before it even goes to trial. There's a lot here, like way more than what we see on the surface. I assure you. Like, I suspected this was pretty bad, but this is like already way worse than I suspected. So now, what this is all implying, now I ain't gonna underestimate anymore. Now I'm thinking like, you know, there was something more going on here. Like, there was no reason these kids could not have been anywhere else. If they were trying to record videos for connections or for whatever channel or whatever the heck they were doing, and the kids were being too loud or whatever the fucking justification is that's being made for why these kids were tied up, like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. They could have been anywhere else if they were just trying to film the videos for connections, right? So what were they filming? That's all I'm gonna say on that, okay? Anyways, I'm sorry. I don't mean it. I'm not yelling at you guys. I'm not mad at you guys. I just literally, this is screaming in my face right now. Screaming something more in my face. Like there is something big here, and it's I hope whatever has happened, whatever it is, that great care is taken, as extreme care is taken in the processing of this for these children, the evaluation, the whatever help they're going to get thereafter, the aftercare, the psychological support and stuff. Like I hope that it's the same extreme as how extreme this has been for them in their whole life. I don't think they even know how bad this has all been for them. Okay, so I think we already went over this. Hold on. Trying to keep the children. Okay, so here we go. Here's the statement, the father's statement from the attorney, saying that he's trying to keep his children together following the arrest. The attorney said that his client's urgent focus is simply to keep the children together under his fatherly care. So he's trying to get custody of the children now, which I don't think either of them should have the children. I definitely think all of them, anybody involved in this needs to be investigated, and for sure the children need to be outside of the family with somebody right at the moment. And from what I understand, they're placed in a specialized care home for this type of extreme of abuse. Is my understanding anyway. I can't be for sure. I don't know exactly. This is just also some people just say things, and you never know. They could just be at some foster home somewhere. Who knows? I don't know. For the children were taken to the care of Child and Family Services. It's unconfirmed if they were related to either Frank or... What? Now it's 4 kids? Okay, what the hell was going on here, and what were they filming? Because we know for sure 2 of them were hers. But if there was 2 other kids that are just some random kids, and then, like, these kids were being tied up and stuff, and they had wounds... Like, what is going on here? There is something way bigger going on here, man. It's... The words between the lines are just, like, it's... Fuck. Sorry, guys. This is just, like, wow. There's a lot here. There's definitely a lot here. Okay, we did go over this. And I don't know why this has singing in it. These aren't supposed to have vocals. Maybe we'll just find something else to listen to here. Hold on. Let's change this up. This isn't doing it for me. I don't even know. Maybe just go back to the crime music here, because this is... Crimes! Crimes have been friggin' committed. This is a crime scene. Abso-friggin-lutely, like... There's no doubt about that. You can look out your window and see a temple they recently built. My goodness. Like, if nothing else, and as horrific and terrible as this whole thing is, if nothing else, it should definitely be put a magnifying glass on these types of families and organizations, I really hope things start to change in a big way after this, and with all the different things starting to come up, as they've been reforming, the statute of limitations for people to be able to come forward for child abuse and for things that they've faced in their lives. More and more stuff's coming out, and I think the more we keep pushing, the more that we keep talking about stuff, this is how we can start to heal the nation and get more of a better way of going about things, a better way of reforming how we approach this stuff, what the early detection factors, the preventative measures, some people got too much leeway and too many kids and too much money, and it's just seems like it's just a recipe for disaster, man. And it doesn't have to be, but for some people, there's just some dark entity that takes over them, and they're because obviously it didn't start out this way. Obviously, for a few years they had been operating their channel without too much backlash. But then, just over this past 3 years, and like you'd said there, Mellow Mango was saying over the pandemic, it seems they got crazier. This is a lot. Information was obtained by police that other juveniles in similar condition may be in a nearby home. Yeah, we know what was going on here. We know what was actually fucking going on here. And this is so messed up. This is so messed up. You quit your YouTube channel to save your kids. No, you got shut down, and then you started selling them in a different way is what you fucking did. You were selling your kids online in every fucking way, and then at this point, man, it's just speculation in my opinion, but I think there was a different kind of sale going on with these fucking kids. There is something more dark and sinister that was going on here, man, and I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right about it, but everything inside of me is saying that there was something more going on here. It wasn't just restraining the kids so they could tape their fucking connections videos. There's, oh, fuck. I mean, I know I live in some deep, dark rabbit holes, and with the research and shit I did, it's like, maybe I'm a little cynical. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it. I really hope that I'm not. Like, I hope to goodness I'm wrong. I hope to goodness that it's just this, like, man. I'm sorry, guys. This is just, yeah, so I guess the earliest complaints to Child Protective Services was 2020. Which I guess Chad, who was 15 at the time, which exactly like I was saying, you know, you're going through puberty, you're trying to come into your manhood and shit here, and you're fucking have him sleeping out in the middle of the living room where all can see and all is there, everyone's just around. Like, I don't know, there's something weird about that for sure, so I understand why people would start showing concern. Oh, man. Yeah, so Sherry's definitely been working towards building a case against them, it sounds like. The oldest daughter, like, this has all been in the making, especially since, this past few months, or to several months, I guess, since about April, that, since Sherry had detached herself and became excommunicated from the church and all of that. It sounds like she's really been putting efforts to put it together, asking for anyone that had, she's crowdsourcing footage of anything that might have been questionable. So that's good news, I guess, like that for all of the things at least that the oldest daughter was still trying to look out and still doing everything in her power to protect the kids, even though she herself had gotten out and gotten away. Like, it sounds like was really going to work here, and that's good to hear, because I mean, somebody need to be advocating for these damn kids. Okay, I think we went over this one too. I'm just trying to find where we left off here now. Okay, so this has a little bit more details. So apparently they are still married, but there is speculation that they had been separated last year and that he'd left the home. But I guess they are still married and they weren't pursuing a divorce. But I guess too because of their religious beliefs. Jamie, actually, you could probably answer to that. There's probably some kind of law or regulation or something about getting divorced or not getting, like, I think probably they go to couples church therapy or something before getting a divorce. I don't think they're allowed. I don't really know, though. Jamie, maybe you could help us on that, if they're even allowed to get divorced within their belief system. I would be interested in finding this victimhood story video that she had just posted, too, that her and Jody, 2 days prior, had posted. It was a 27-minute long video about victimhood. And they were pretty much, like, calling themselves out. They were pretty much admitting to it and saying it without saying it, that they had dark secrets. Like, she literally said that she could have a dirty little secret and that she has to the grave, that she keeps to the grave or whatever. So I'd be curious to listen and see what all that video had to say. Now that we know what really is going on, we know the dirty little secret. And, like, we already knew that she was heavily punishing the kids, and, we know about that, so that's not any secret. So what was the secret? What's the dirty little secret, Ruby? because none of it was a secret. There was no secret that you were cruel and unusually, like, giving your kids cruel and unusual punishments. That's not the secret. So what's the secret? I just don't think there's any reason that if the justification for having the kids tied up is because they were trying to film their videos, that doesn't make any sense. With this whole community of Mormon people and with their whole thing and their involvement with the society, within society, like, there's no way there wasn't somebody that could have watched the kids while they're filming their videos. If in fact the videos did not involve the kids, is what I'm trying to get at here. Like, if somebody could explain give me any other justification for that, I'm open to hear it. But I cannot think of any other justifiable cause. Not that there is any. There's no fucking reason. There's no good reason ever. But for what people are saying, why she may have had them tied up, like, that reasonable. The reasons for it. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it one friggin' bit. And the amount of people that have survived these types of situations that have come up and talked about it, the way that the community involvement can be, you know, sometimes these are doctors and lawyers and policemen and people that are their clients. So who's gonna come and fucking stop them unless federal gets involved? You know, I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm saying it. It's been said. But I could be wrong, and I really hope. I hope to freaking all good God goodness, if there is any God. I don't really believe in anything that way. I'm more spiritual than religious. But if there is any goodness in this world, or any, you know, higher power of that sort, any God of that sort, like, I hope to it that I'm wrong. I hope in every way that I'm wrong. But really, yeah, if any of you could give me any other explanation for that, like I said, I'll be open to it. But from my experience in life and with all the type of research I do and the type of cases and stuff I've read, you know, like, and really what ends up in a video and what ends up on here is only the surface of the type of research I've done and the type of, you know, as far as ritualistic abuse and things that happen to kids. You know, maybe, like I said, maybe I am too cynical. Maybe I am just too living in these dark rabbit holes, but... Okay, so yeah, teasing about having a dirty little secret days before the abuse, which was the dirty little secret just that she's now started using restraints and these other even more cruel and harsher punishments than what people had seen online? That's possible. That could be the dirty little secret, for sure. It's up for discussion, obviously. Can't say one thing or another for sure either, right? But so yeah, they were talking about hypothetical scenarios. But yeah, I don't know. Generally, when I feel this sickness in my gut and I start going down that rabbit hole, and when any research I'm doing, when I start getting those gut feels and I start digging deeper and looking, I'm usually right. Is all I'm gonna say on that. Like, my gut hasn't been wrong yet. not especially more, you know, in the last couple of years, the more I've really been focusing, and like, this is my mission, this is my primary directive, is, you know, save the fucking children, raise awareness for this trauma and abuse and the neglect and all the things, and, you know, that all these people end up grown ups that have addictions and have mental health issues and all these problems. It's because something happened to them as kids. It's not because they have a disease of the mind or some other thing that's like some other external floaty thing that's causing them to want to escape themselves. It's because something happened. Something freaking happened, and the time is up, man. Like, we gotta it's time we raise our vibration as a society and as a collective and start seeing this for what it is and realizing the type of deep, dark, dirty little secrets people can have in this world. and start doing something about it, man, because we can't keep having this happen to kids. Like, in this day and age, at the level of society and civilization that we have, and the amount of, like, surveillance states we live in, and, like, everybody got phones, everyone's got a camera in their pocket, like, there's no way anybody should be getting away with this kind of shit anymore, regardless of what was actually happening. Regardless if there was something more sinister happening beyond just them being tied and bound and whatever, right? But this statement here might be 5 years, 10 years. I might even take it to the grave with me. My dirty little secret. So it appears I don't have any outcomes and I get away with it. So, what kind of dirty little secret could she be speaking of that people don't already know? I guess would be it. You know? Not even in prison when they put you in restraints for no reason. Exactly. Yes. But yeah. And you could just lock them in a room. Just lock them in a room. Why are they restrained physically? There is literally no reason. Exactly. Thank you, Mellow Mango. And then trauma is the gateway to drugs. Exactly. It's not drugs are the gateway to drugs. Like, why are you trying to escape yourself to begin with? Because you got shit haunting you, and you're not. Most people aren't given these other healthier coping mechanisms, so they end up drinking and doing drugs and trying to escape themselves with love, sex, money, drugs, whatever, all those things. And then they're never getting to the root of the issue. Right? So it's time we all step up as a society. Like, we are failing people left and right. And then talking about spiritual consequences and outcomes, but like, oh man, yeah, there's so much more gonna come out with this. This is a big deal. This is a real big deal. Hey, Twily's here. Welcome. Good to see ya. Just looked up her name. The neighbors thought people would be... Yeah, they were figuring that the kids weren't coming out except in body bags or whatever. They were fearing that was going to be the way they were making it out, because they were getting more isolated and more restrictive and more... She was acting crazier, and, once the YouTube channel went down and everything, she had put taped paper up over the windows and, like, started acting real dark and weird in ways. And then, like, you gotta think, too, if they're starving them, they're gonna be that much more willing to do whatever these parents are telling them to do, because they want to eat, and they don't want to be tied up. So what was going on here, man? Like, there's definitely... Yeah, because I guess the rest of them would be, like, they're older, but the 4 youngest children, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I don't know. Oops. I think I'm almost ready to take another 5-minute break here. There's just my brain's swimming. It's a lot of new data to be applied to the discussion here. So my brain's a little just kind of swimming with the possibilities of what's going on here. Like, I just don't know. I just don't know what to think now. I'm just, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of information to consider. Let me just see what else we got set up here. I think that was the main articles. Oh, here, I don't think we went through this one. Here we go. Okay, hold on. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's where we want to go to here. Let me check that out. Let me, You know what? Yeah, let's take a couple-minute break again. Another couple minutes here, and then, yeah, because we're almost at the hour again anyways, and I could use a little quick stretch, but then that'll give me a chance to, set up this next set of stuff here. Yeah, because we've got that. Yeah, you got, oh, and you got a bunch of them, too. These are all his, Professor is so full of himself. He always makes sure to remind the class that he is the leader. He'll guide us into the healthier style of life. So hard to get in touch with him outside the lecture. Very unprofessional. Yeah, so we'll go through and read more into the husband when we come back here. Jamie, thank you. I appreciate that. That's like, yeah, you got a bunch of the reviews on the husband. Yeah, so we'll run through that, and you got a couple clips here too. So yeah, we'll start jumping into that. We still got time, and oh lordy, this is a whole situation. Misunderstood the safe room. Okay, so yeah, so give me a couple moments here, and let me sift through this here, and then we'll go a little deeper with the husband. And his involvement and his stuff with, you know, and to be honest, with what I'm reading already with these reviews, it sounds like in the home that it was a little bit more of a submissive, he was in a submissive role, and that she was more in control in the home. So then at school and in his job, he would go to the extreme to regain his own, dominance, assert his dominance at school, at his job, because he wasn't able to in the home. Would be my wondering. But yeah, so we're going to take another quick couple moments here. Stretch your legs, smoke them if you got them, grab another snack, refill your beverages, whatever you got to do. And I will be right back. I don't know if I like this music anymore either. I'm going to get you guys something even better to listen to here. I think we need to bring up the mood a little bit. Let's get something a little more uplifting going here. Dream pop. That sounds pretty uplifting. Let's try that. Because we need to bring it out of the darkness here for a moment and regather ourselves. yeah, this was a little better music choice for the between us. Would you like me to keep it going? I can let it play out and give you guys another moment here. Yeah, it's a way better vibe than what we had going before the break. Mood is lifted. Good. Everybody's feeling a little better. Everybody's had a moment to collect themselves. We're feeling, moods have been lifted. Things are better. Things are good. And yeah, I got this lined up for us, so should be good in the hood. Temple, family, city. That's just like, all of it's gross. All of it's a little gross, even regardless of whether or not there was any other more darker, more sinister things going on. I don't know. But we also have to remember, I do want to say before we get on to the next thing here, there is a lot of things that can be done that are not necessarily, how do I put this? Not necessarily seeming to be as you know, like pornographic from the outside, but can be in a way, you know, like just taking videos of the kids being tied up and being tortured alone is material that some people would find gratifying, and that's the sickness of the world that we live in. And that's what I'm trying to get at here, that it might not be that they were making the kids do things with each other, that it was actually any explicit in nature material on that part of it. But if you are making, you know what, I probably just shouldn't even touch it, because, you know, I mean, it's too much on the air of speculation, and we don't really need to live there. But just keep in mind, there's a lot that can be done that to some would be a sexually gratifying material that to others might not be. Like, look at the Dan Schneider thing in the feet. And look how long that was undetected and gotten away with. And he'd be rubbing the kids' feet and paying them to rub their feet and making weird fucking scenes in the kid shows with the feet, right? And if they were into that kind of thing, like from some of the rumors floating around, they were into that swingers lifestyle and possibly into the more kink side of things, which, you know, and not to say that everybody that is active in that lifestyle is going to be this degree of sick and twisted, but there's something for everyone. And if you don't have any problem punishing your kids to this kind of degree, and there are people out there willing to pay for footage of that, and you're hurting for cash because all your YouTube stuff just went down, like, you know what I mean? And you got all these kids, and some of the kids weren't even theirs. So why would they have other people's kids there if they can't even maintain and keep track of their own while they're trying to film these videos for connections or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you're picking up what I'm putting down, Shimon? Exactly. So, yeah, like, because I noticed as I was scrolling up and catching up on the chat here that some of you were saying that you maybe don't think that necessarily it would have been filming that type of material specifically, like CP specifically, but that definitely something was wrong there. But exactly, I'm not even saying that they were specifically, because it doesn't have to be completely in that nature, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that way to necessarily be desirable for some people, right? Exactly. You guys get it. You guys know what I'm saying. As delicately and lightly as possible. There's not really any delicate or nice way to say it, though. Okay. So apparently they had separated, though, last year by the sounds of it. I'm gonna have to work this around a bit. Hold on. This window's gotten weird. Got rejiggered somewhere in between here. So because of her involvement with Jody And they're presuming because of the extreme religious practices, but I think maybe that kind of confirms possibly that her and Jody maybe were more involved with each other in a different way than just business partners. Because otherwise, you know, he had no problem with everything else. Like, he was part of the Connections organization. Like, there was pictures on their Instagram with him in it. You know, he was part of it. He was part of all of it. The only thing he didn't want to be a part of was whatever was going on between her and Jody, Ruby and Jody, which, so what exactly was going on here? You know? Well, that's it, right? And you've got these people that have all this money and all this time, and they don't, you know, they can have whatever they want in the world, so this is where it starts breeding more sicker desires, too, right? Like, what can money buy that most people can't have? You know, and then that's where we go into, like, the forbidden fruit thing, you know what I mean? Which, like, I'd hate to even really be, you know, for the fact that it is such a sick religious thing, like, to even go that way about it, but, yes! Yeah, exactly, Siobhan. Well, and even, what's her face that we were looking into here the other day, or a couple weeks ago, it's not the other day anymore, a few weeks ago, the Miranda Sings thing. The stuff that she had been posting with the gymnastics videos with the nieces and nephews or whatever, and getting mad that YouTube was removing comments and stuff and making it so that it wasn't getting as much money, wasn't getting pushed the same or whatever. She knew what she was doing. They know what they're doing. It doesn't have to be explicit to be wrong. Exactly. Like, that child is being abused in a way, whether or not those other people are in the same room at the same time. If there's somebody using material with children in it as a gratifying material, that's abuse. That's abuse. I don't care how you cut it. You're putting your kid out there to be fucking abused, and whether the kid knows it or not, one day that kid's gonna look back and feel the reality of it and know the reality of it. But anyways, one sec. I gotta open a window in here. Running all this computer shit. It's starting to get a little toasty. Toasty like mosty. It was getting a little chilly earlier, so then I closed the window and got the cool air thing going, and then turned all that off, and then turned all that on, and then it got too hot in here, so airflow is not great today. That's alright though. It's probably just all this is like, it's whole shock to this. It rocks the system too. Like, this whole thing is just, it's got me heated, getting pumped with anger juice. Because it's just so friggin', like, you know, the possibilities there too. Like, you guys know what I'm saying. We don't got to go too much farther into it, but it seems pretty clear to me there was more going on, and the kids were there for a reason while they were filming. Otherwise, they would just have them elsewhere. Because I guess, like, the son, from what I'm gathering, the son was has been living with the dad, and they are separating, and that the other girls were at some other family members, but then the youngest kids, and then whoever else's young kids were here at this house while apparently they were trying to film. Why would they even have the kids there if they were trying to film? Right? So, that's it. That's all. So, apparently that Kevin, Frankie, the husband, is going to be taking care of the children after the arrest. So, I don't know if they've been replaced into his care or not, or if he's just in pursuit of that. I would hope that there will be more investigation done before they release the kids to his care. I really would hope that, especially with what we're going to dive into with these Rate My Teacher, because I guess he's a teacher, and Jamie went out of her way and was so thoughtful to go through, and she was able to find him on Rate My Teacher and get some of the feedback from his students, the type of person he was. So it definitely gives us a lot more insight of what was going on behind the scenes. Because if he would be that way in public with his own students, you can imagine how much worse he might have been with the kids. So if it was the both of them, you know, partners in crime and the sickness, and maybe he stopped wanting to be a part of it in such a way to that degree. Like, maybe that's the thing that he didn't want to be a part of, you know, is whatever their next business plan was. Because it wasn't connections, and it wasn't the friggin' church stuff. Like, it wasn't anything. There was nothing, he didn't have a problem with anything they were doing up until this point of her working with Jody. So what arrangement, and again, let's not forget, they're in the middle of nowhere here, and in a very affluent neighborhood where it's like, you could pretty much, like, nobody will hear you scream. You know, if you're, yeah, I don't know. It's just, there's something here. There's something there that we're going to look into. But yeah, he's got a very bad overall rating, and there is a good amount of ratings to go into here. So we're going to go through that too in a moment. But we'll make our way through this article, and then we'll get there. For what it's saying, there were 4 minor children removed from that home, and then were taken into police custody. So 2 of them were hers. There was another little girl that was in the same condition as the little boy that had escaped. And then there was a 4th little girl that was there. So I don't even know where the other 2 kids come from or what, or if we're going to get more details on that. And because obviously they want to protect the identity of the minors. So, yes. Yeah. Definitely investigate the other parents before handing the kids over. Yes, I hope so. Yeah, I would hope so. Parents fully know well that the videos are being saved by predators, and they don't care. Exactly. Exactly, Aaron. Like, they know exactly. There's no way, you can't tell me these parents are that ignorant to what goes on in the world, that they're putting their kids out here in bathing suits and thinking, like what you were saying with the eating food in bathing suits, whatever. Like, I can just imagine what kind of sickness they're going for with that, you know, and, like, definitely there's got to be a certain level of understanding of their clientele, and knowing what's getting them the views and the comments and getting them the money that becomes an incentive. Oh, for sure, Mellow Mango. Well, this is why, again, like, this is why we need to look at these cases more closely, and we need to discuss them, and we need to be able to be more proactive and to detect the early warning signs of this kind of shit. Because exactly, like, what about the Kylie Jenners of the world? You know, all these child stars in the world that are grown up and thrust into the spotlight and controlled in such a way and handled in such a way to keep everybody making money. You know what I mean? So, and then when there's no other regulatory services that can intervene, and any ones that do try to intervene are just, you know, dropping the ball, the degree of terror and horrifying experiences that these kids could be having will just be increasing. You know, the more they're getting away with, the more they're going to push the envelope. And if it is in fact something where they have a certain clientele that they're trying to appeal to, those requests will keep getting worse and bigger and more as you go on too, because obviously there's the situation of diminishing returns. You know, like with anything, any addictions, you're always chasing that original high, and it's going to take more and more and more each time to get that initial high, right? So it's all the same. So no wonder it's gotten to this degree too, if that's the case. Like, if it didn't start out in such a way, you know, but it's, and why the paper over the windows, do you know? And then the oldest son's not there anymore. All the older kids are more so out of the home, and then it's just her and this Jody woman with the younger kids. Like, it's screaming at me that there's something more going on there. Welcome, Liberty Camp. Welcome, new folks joining us tonight. Terrified that Kevin might be taking care of those kids. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess the 2 are adults now, yeah. And then so it'd be the 4. All 4 kids are rubies. Well, apparently the 2 other kids weren't there, though, or, I mean, regardless, it's 4 children that were in very questionable circumstances that needs to be investigated, you know, regardless of exactly what kid and who and where and what and when and why. But anyways, so urgent focus to simply keep the children together under the fatherly care. So that's what they're pursuing, but that doesn't mean that's what's happening. I don't think that, yeah, I'm very certain that they'd be doing a lot more investigation before releasing him to his care. Small suburb, Washington County. Jody, the business partner and therapist who had her license put on probation, was also arrested. Responded to requests for comment. Of course they didn't, because what are you going to say? There's nothing to be said. You said it all in your victimhood freaking video 2 days before. Yeah, so I feel like he maybe knew things were about to go down too, and maybe he did remove himself, you know, for other reasons. Kept himself out of the public eye in recent months. Unclear whether the people are still together, or the couple are still together. The father is an associate professor at Brigham Young University in Utah, but a spokesperson told Insider his employment ended earlier this spring. Well, thank goodness, because based on some of these reviews, he wasn't doing a great job. And probably with everything coming out, too. Like, that's... In April was when the daughter came out and was saying things and started to be more open about what was happening and why she left. The daughter's wearing a size 14 even though they were all different. Yeah, that's a little weird. Hear the distinct sound of a lighter hitting the table. Oh, shoot. Usually I'm pretty good at muting in between, but I'm a little worked up about this, so I'm just like, ugh. Who cares? Whatever. I smoke. It's fine. You guys know it. It's fine. And that was, I guess you two are a smoker if you can detect the distinct sound of the lighter hitting the table, and with my like, the stress of it, like with disgust, thrusting it down to the table. Yeah, well, this is like we were talking about with the emotional violence, though, earlier, too, right? Like, just by talking about clothing sizes and different things like that in public, and when your children are coming into ages where their bodies are changing and they're going through puberty and, you know, they're already feeling so uncomfortable and so unsure of themselves, to be making comments or saying questionable things to them that make them feel less confident and destroy their self-esteem, that's violence. That's emotional violence. I might have to do a video about emotional violence and figure out exactly what all that entails, because I think we're starting to really form a new saying here in such a way, and so I think we should figure out the outline of that and what that would include, because this is it. And the more better understanding we can get about it, the more people can get help for it too, because there's so many people out there that just are under the impression that they had such an idyllic childhood and nothing was wrong. Their parents were great. They had everything they needed. You know, they lived a comfortable lifestyle, so they have nothing bad to say about the parents. But once they really start digging into it and realizing what is an abusive thing, and then all these memories start flooding back, and they start realizing how much stuff they've pushed away and tucked aside and put in a lockbox and then into a Tupperware dish and threw it into the closet in the back of their mind. All that stuff starts popping open as you get older. And then this is where we get people end up active in addictions or, you know, different ways of escaping, because like all these memories start flooding back when you get older, or when you, like I was saying earlier too, once you start having kids and you start applying these situations and realizing, like, I would never do that to my freaking kid. Like, what the hell is wrong with the adults that were supposed to look after me and protect me, you know? So all that emotional violence stuff, like, I think that in the mental health community, there needs to be so much more emphasis and study done on that and the effects of that. So you get punched in the eye, that shit heals, and it's whatever. Okay, I got punched in the head, and my dad's an asshole, whatever. You know what I mean? But then, oh, fuck. It's just like, if ever there was a perfect example for all the things we talk about here, this is it. But anyways, so started a huge online following, removed her focus to the channel connections in the summer of 2022. Okay, so this, for the sake of it really literally only being like maybe a year, just over a year, and it went this bad this quickly, huh. Which I guess that would have been, I don't know. Okay, so let's just go over the abuse again. She gave them choices. Natural consequences to every choice we make, and if we communicate these when children make poor choices and behavior, the learning is profound. Well, I hope you learn from your mistakes here, Ruby, because this is like, yeah, your choices had a direct impact on your children. So let's fucking talk about it. When you cut and slice and put it together, you can make even the most saintly person look villainous. They find any justification that they can muster to criticize and attack us because they feel uncomfortable, ultimately, seeing our family and our interactions. But the truth is our children are learning to become independent, self-sufficient, and are being taught how to pursue their own happiness through their own choices and their own relationships in life. Except they weren't allowed to be around other children. They were hugely isolated and homeschooled. They were controlled to the level of, like, torture and psychological warfare. Like, what Does she even believe her own bullshit? That's what I'd like to know. Well, you know, some of you guys know, here, let me catch up the chat again here, but as most of you guys already know, I've been trying to quit. I did try to quit. I went a good few weeks there, for a bit there, but, when you're digging deep in these rabbit holes all day, every day, sometimes you just need a cigarette to calm the nerves, which it doesn't do that. It's actually the opposite, and smoking's the worst thing I ever did. It's the worst thing I ever started. I wish I never did. I wish I never, ever smoked one, but that's one vice I found that's been really difficult to be able to let go of, and especially in these matters, you know, it's like... What's that? What's that meme? You know, the guy's like got the crazy eyes and all the sticker things on the wall and the strings going around, and he's smoking a cigarette like, oh, there's truths here, and we're gonna get down to it. That's kind of my life, you know. So if that's my one big vice, that's, you know, it could be worse. But yeah, no. So this is just a bunch of crap. Yes, absolutely, Siobhan. 100,000%. Yeah, and I mean, I even said it in the video, in one of the videos I posted, that, yeah, let's see about consequences, Ruby. We'll talk about teaching some consequences. And so, and then I mentioned it, like, we know how people that bring harm to children are treated in prison. So she's going to get hers, and then she's going to get hers 2 times, and then maybe more. Maybe for every day of her very lengthy, what I hope to be a very lengthy prison sentence. Yeah, exactly, Cynthia. I mean, for sure, it could be your 40s, 50s before you even really have these demons start to surface. Because depending on how many lockboxes you've tucked it in, like those Chinese nesting dolls, or what do they call them, Russian nesting doll? What is it? The nesting dolls, you know? If you got your demons in the center of a nesting doll and you keep putting layers and layers and layers, it could take decades for this stuff to surface. 100%. And all the more reason to have the better understanding so people can have their healing and have their... you know, these things come out sooner and be able to face them and have that better understanding of how to process it and all of that sooner, you know? Okay. So we're going to jump into the reviews of Kevin as a professor at the university. I guess you can't really filter them, but we'll just start going down the line here. Yeah, is their therapist somebody from Connections? Okay. Quality, difficulty. The professor gets extremely... Okay, so this is student ratings about Kevin Franke. So his job was as a professor at the university in Utah there, or one of the universities in Utah. And this is the Rate My Professor, which again I will mention. Big thanks to Jamie for digging down and finding this for us and sharing it to be able to go over it on the stream here. So it looks like a couple of them are like recent, like they're going back and being like, yeah, that guy was actually kind of an asshole. So, oh no, some of them are just recent to say, oh, he was so great. Yeah, I wonder where those come from. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so we'll go down the line here and get a little more of a feel for the type of person that he was with other people's children. And so, like I said too, we got to remember, like, if he'd be behaving this way and being this way towards children, like openly and in publicly, then you got to just imagine how much worse it is behind the scenes, right? Professor gets extremely upset when he is challenged, even when what he says is completely wrong. When I showed he was wrong and I was correct, he took away my desk privileges and my snack and water bottles, stating that this was the best form of punishment. So right off the bat, that shows a clear ignorance to reality. And you're living in this fantasy world, and if you've got that kind of control in your own home, that's one thing, but you're going to expect other people to, like, accept your bullshit? And they've proven you wrong, they've got proof that you are wrong, and you're going to punish them for proving you wrong. Like, that, I think, that's very telling right off the bat. right off the bat. And then we got a couple from this last couple days, this on September 1st, trying to say he was such a great teacher. Somebody had to jump in there and fix the quality level now that it was all becoming public, I guess. But in July, workload can be manageable as long as you aren't taking any other classes. Just take someone else, just for your own sake. Okay? Never on time and unprofessional. Well, I mean, they definitely had a lot of things going on in their household, so I could see him having difficulty managing the punishments for every child in the freaking world here, between his own and then at the school there. BYU, the LDS university. Of course it's an LDS university. Like, that's messed up. That how much control and over-involvement these organizations can have with people. Like, everything they know, everything, their whole education is twisted in the viewpoint of these people. And then they even still can say, okay, no, you're wrong. Like, all that brainwashing and all that control, and they can still see through these people's bullshit. So at least that gives us some hope, you know? He really knows his stuff. Just be ready to study, study, study. It would make me wonder if how many of these are, I don't know, unique guy, but truly seems to care about the students' success and effectively teaches the concepts. Also willing to change those classes. Well, you know, some students like that kind of pressure and like punishment styles. Like, you got to realize there's different dynamics and preferences that people do have with their learning and things like that. So I guess some of these kids would be like, yeah, he keeps control of the class. I'm able to learn. There's nobody distracting me, you know. So some of them I could see thinking that it was a good way to go about it. But then also you got to wonder what kind of homes they're coming from, right? Put the work in to become expert in this field, makes all the info accessible to students. Planned a fantastic field trip. An overall class was a great experience. Like $3. Yeah, okay. So I guess there's also ways to, like, be able to appease students if there's, you know, they get a bad taste in their mouth on one day, but then you take them on this nice field trip and they're feeling a different way the next day. Therapist is a lady. Oh, man, could you imagine? Because, yeah, she was, like, a licensed therapist at one point or whatever, right? I'm telling you it was the lady. I can't remember which YouTube video I learned that in, though. Could be, because then before she linked up with her, they were using her, like, as a therapist, right? And then, yeah, all their beliefs kind of lined up, so then they went into business together. That would make sense. I mean, we don't know for sure, but that would make sense that it was Jody was the therapist that they're saying told them that that was okay. But then it also shows how complicit and like how much of an accomplice Kevin is in the whole situation, right? Made my university experience. Yeah. Yeah, some of them probably have the same beliefs and are, you know, preferential to that. He sucks. I truly did not have a great experience in this class. It wasn't an insanely hard class. I take schoolwork very seriously, and I've never had issues with a professor before now. Hard professors are one thing, but downright rude, dismissive, and arrogant is another. Save yourself the misery if you can, and take something else with someone else. Which, you know, some people would look up to that, and yeah, they'd think, oh, well, he knows everything. Like, yeah, I'm going to listen, and everything's great. But then other people that can see through the shit and challenge it, suddenly they need to be punished, and they're like, screw this guy, you know? Weird dude. Makes the class too complicated. Very rude and mean, spoke down to students in a disrespectful manner. Where other people would think that that's like a good authoritarian approach, but other people realize in the real world, that's not how people need to act, and that's not the way to behave and how to teach people things. It's not effective. No. just no. Able to get to contact outside of class, very controlling, and you can have, and I guess for these people too, this would be like an online class probably at this point, wouldn't it be? Because through the pandemic, they had everybody working online and doing class from home and stuff. So if even from home they're feeling like he's too controlling and disrespectful and all this stuff. And you can only have the same views that he has, or you'll be looked down on. Caused me so much stress that I dropped out. Wow. That's insane. That's actually, like, extra. To the point that they're gonna belittle you and make you feel like such shit because you don't agree, or because he's just downright wrong. Then to the point that you end up dropping out altogether because you're like, just screw this. Screw school altogether. Like, that's sad. Professor's so full of himself. He always makes sure to remind the class that he is the leader, that he will guide us into a healthier style of life. So hard to get in touch with him outside of the lecture. Very unprofessional. So he probably, yeah, was really getting into these beliefs within this connections and whatever, and getting that whole self-righteous gung-ho thing going, like kind of same as how Ruby was with going and lecturing people what they had in their own friggin' garage. Very strange man. If you don't agree, you're looked past for the remainder of the course. If you've taken a few of his summer courses, he's trying to get you to get involved with Jody Hildebrandt, who is renounced as a terrible person at BYU and LDS, and with severe untreated mental illness. Terrible, terrible people. Oh, so definitely it had a big part of this Jody woman getting involved with their family and with her belief system, and oh man. And then he was trying to get the kids to join up with that, like trying to brainwash them. They're already brainwashed enough going to an LDS school, and then you're trying to usher them into the arms of this crazy woman that's gonna let you tie up the kids in the basement. Like, come on. Don't waste your time. All he teaches about is garden, dirt, and steel bed frames. Okay, what does that even mean? That seems a little questionable. There's ones about Kevin having an issue with TikTok. He grabbed a student by the arm, went on a rant, and talked about his kids. Oh boy. Okay, well we'll work our way down. We may as well just skim down here, all the way down. I know you selected a few out of it, and those, yeah, that was great. That was awesome of you. But we may as well get both sides of it here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Rude from day one, does not respect his students at all. He always is in a bad mood and made class miserable. He would make horrible homophobic remarks and make us feel incompetent. Felt hostile and like a prison. Oh my goodness. If the classroom felt like that, imagine what living in that home felt like. Like, seriously. Seriously. Like, that right there, that says it all. Horrible person with horrible values, super hard on students, not in a loving way. Which, I mean, I guess, too, with the stress of everything with the household and the stuff going down with the YouTube, and I'm sure Ruby was not a delight to be married to either, so not that I'm giving him any excuse or giving him any leeway, but I'm sure that part of the increasing in his terrible attitude had something to do with what was going on behind the scenes, too. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is the one you were just talking about, Jamie. He once pulled me by the arm into his office to yell at me for doing a TikTok dance outside of the building. Why? How is that any of his business? His class was so hard I almost failed. Kevin's horrible. I cried every day. It's very abusive to his students, and we were left traumatized. So these are kids that have a little bit of wherewithal and have their own body autonomy and can think for themselves. And he don't like that. But if anything, like, this is so telling of the type of like, all these kids that are saying how traumatized and whatever they were. That was just having one class with the guy. They're spending 45 minutes with this guy, and they're brought to tears every day. Like, what? Like, what does that tell you right there? Like, if just for a class, these kids are feeling this way. Just imagine living it 24/7. You know, that this is your freaking parents, man. Like, holy crap. He had a meltdown last month in front of the class and scolded everyone. I tried to contact the dean, but nothing happened. He screamed and yelled at us for using TikTok and went on a rant. He threw a textbook at me, and I'm filing for battery charge. Well, I think we know why he was let go early in the spring this year. Sounds like it was getting to a peak with the way that he was being abusive towards the freaking students, which literally, like I said, you have one class, and you can't even handle the one class without becoming abusive and hostile towards the kids. Maybe it wasn't just one class, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a 45-minute period or an hour, what is it, hour and a half? Or 45, I don't know. How long are the periods? I don't fucking know. It's been a long time. Abusive, racist, and homophobic. Like, and you know these kids come from, like, a pretty, like I was saying, like a pretty brainwashed way of living already. And if they can see it, they can see how messed up it is. You know? He was extremely rude. During class, he just talked the entire time. While sitting, he never used books or even the board. He had pop quizzes almost every day and homework every day. It was so difficult to learn with him. I would not recommend. Yeah, so definitely getting to the peak of self-righteousness and just lecturing and really just trying to use it as a branch to better enrich their own situation by the sounds of it, like to recruit people into their little cult and be pushing his views and whatever on these kids. But yeah, good point. Like, thankfully it's college and not young kids, because can you imagine? And no wonder he has a problem with TikTok, though, because if people were reloading all of their abuse stuff to TikTok and there was nothing they could do about it in the same way as they could with YouTube, no wonder he's like, everybody stay off TikTok. Don't look at me. I don't want you to know the truth, you know? And will push his beliefs on you more than teaching. If you take him, you'll have a hard time getting in touch. When you do, don't expect him to be nice. So definitely, he was definitely just using it, like, because once they started doing the YouTube thing too, I like, there would be little to no reason to even continue having the job. Like, he's not done. They don't need the money, but so obviously continuing to have that position was beneficial to them in some way, because we know how they treat things that are not beneficial to them anymore. Like, look how bad it went for these kids as soon as they stopped being the breadwinners. Took 10 points off my grade because he saw me doing a TikTok dance outside of class. He said I broke honor code and was promoting pornography. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, that's so extreme, though. Like, what these kids are doing outside of class is not this person's business whatsoever. It's not his business at all. Like, what do you care if they're out there doing TikTok dances? The fuck does that matter to you? Pushes his political agenda too much and talks about his kids more than the topic of the classes. Oh, Lord. So, yeah, the political agenda, too, I guess, and, like, with what Jamie was saying with Utah, is there's no separation between church and state or whatever. So his political agenda would be probably in alignment with his religious beliefs and his lifestyle choices and beliefs. Oh, I guess here it says, okay, so these were not online classes, but then it shows whether or not they're online classes here. Online class, yes, horrible. Too full of himself, always rude side comments, and it's hard to reach for office hours. Yeah, rude side comments, that passive-aggressive kind of way of going about things, I'd say that fits in with the emotional violence. And then again, if this is how he's treating people just at the school, his students, this is how he's treating students in public, how the heck do you think he's treating the kids, you know? So definitely he should have no say in where these kids end up, and they definitely should not be put back into his care. Neither of them. All three of them are mental cases here. Man is a kook. Kooky? I don't know what they're trying to say here, but mental health is a personal choice, which is a very dangerous belief, and horrible and uncaring man who shouldn't be teaching. What? Your mental health is a choice, meanwhile you're super controlling and causing emotional and mental terrorism. Worst professor ever. Very arrogant, not accessible outside of class. Would not recommend. Worst professor I've ever had. Rude, inaccessible out of class. Unhelpful when you ask questions. So we're seeing a pattern here across the board, though, and again, gives you more insight as to the kind of guy he is in real life, and it probably even worse at home. Avoid him at all costs if it's not too late. Had him for multiple classes. He can be really nice, caring sometimes, and he can also be super arrogant and rude. Sure, he gets busy, but it doesn't feel like his students come first with his work. Well, yeah, because it wasn't. They were just there as a way to push the beliefs more. It wasn't about teaching the kids anymore. They had their own thing going on, right? Homework's always super hard. Lectures are barely usable, and I never retain anything I learned from him. I'd avoid him. His only good thing is 4L for you. I don't know what that is, but all right. Good professor overall, would recommend. Not sure some of the other reviews, but he isn't that bad. Well, you got to think that he's only singling out the kids that are opposing him and that are questioning him and challenging him, right? So any of the other kids that are just taking it and just taking his word as gospel are like, yeah, he's great. Everything's great. It's a class. Everything's fine. You just do the work and you'll be fine. But anyone that's opposing the views and anyone that's going to, like, rise to that challenge, you know, which you should be able to, they're, like, wisdom is knowing that you don't know everything. Like, wisdom and knowledge is that you're always knowing that you can always be learning. Like, you can never be too wise to stop realizing that people younger than you can still teach you things, you know? Like, it should be a joint effort in learning. Like, and as you're, like, as times are changing too, you've got to grow and evolve with that, you know, and things change with our understanding of certain topics and certain classes and things too. So maybe he was right in certain areas years before, but as the times are changing and, like, yeah, if he's being super racist and homophobic, like, times have changed, sir. We can't be acting like that anymore. You can't be talking like that. But then you go to challenge that and then you're being belittled and talked down to and all these things. Like, definitely not conducive to a healthy learning environment. Makes easy concepts unnecessarily difficult and almost impossible to contact after class. Would not recommend. Well, you'd be guessing too. Like, I would be guessing too that he'd be trying to figure out how to weave his belief system and the teachings of the connections thing into the class. And if he's trying to weave in his crazy views and his belief system and all this stuff, weave it into the course material, then absolutely it would be complicated and it would be so much harder to retain all the information and to learn what you're actually supposed to be learning, because it's like, well, everything's going to be a lesson in life and I'm going to teach you and you're going to learn. Okay, dude, yeah, I want to grow up and have my kids tied up in the basement too. How can I learn that? Teach me, oh wise one. Fuck. Should not have been allowed to alter someone's grade because they did a dance outside of class. Yeah, like, that's mental. That's messed up. An insane honor code. If anyone remembers Julie from Real World, New Orleans, that was a whole fiasco. Oh, I don't know about that. I never seen that. I never watched that, but I can just imagine. I wouldn't take him again. Seemed a lot more into himself than the class or students. If you don't understand a student, yeah. So he'd probably also be going on tangents of like circle jerking himself about what they're doing and with their channel and with everything, thinking he's so above everybody with their stature in, you know, whatever at that point. If he didn't understand a concept, he couldn't understand why and wasn't great at helping. Not easy to reach outside of class. The class content was okay. So you're supposed to be a teacher and you're supposed to know how to teach these concepts to the students and make sure they're understanding, but you're getting upset with them because they don't understand because you're not teaching them effectively. If they're not understanding, it's your fault, dude. Most annoying teacher ever, basically impossible to contact outside of class, was awful at giving feedback on his submitted assignments. He made what should have been an easy class into one of the most stressful this semester. So definitely he was taking it upon himself to make it into something that it didn't have to be. A whole other thing. Which, like, that's the one big problem with school, though. And, like, a lot of teachers go and put their own opinions and their own belief system into what they're teaching. And one school to another, it's completely different. You can be learning one part of the curriculum at one school and you change schools and they're just starting that part of the curriculum or whatever, and you can see a stark difference in how that's taught in different schools. You know, like, I changed schools a lot as a kid, so I got a real distrust and started challenging a lot of teachers because you could really see the difference. And if you would ask them, like, oh, well, from where I just came from and we already just learned this is how I was taught it, or this is what I was taught. And then they get offended because they're like, that teacher's opinion is different than my opinion. And then it's a whole thing because it's a personal thing. They make it so personal where it shouldn't be personal. School should not be personal. You get in, learn what you need to learn to get the freaking grades and just get the hell out of there. Like, it's all a bunch of filler anyways half the time. Like, ask me how many times I've used the Pythagorean theorem. And I can still memorize what the friggin' thing is, you know, and it's completely useless in the real world. So you just get in, get out, get going. But a lot of teachers take it upon themselves to be self-righteous and to push their beliefs on kids, whether it's a LDS school or any friggin' school. Terrible. Difficult professor. They still give him a good grade, though. Some people feel bad giving bad ratings, too, though. They're like, he's terrible, but I still give him a 5-star. And I guess, too, over time it started shifting. It seems like maybe before it wasn't as bad, but then over time it shifted. I think that's the end of it, actually. Unless there's more below these ads. Nope, there's just 7,000 ads. But I definitely, it gives you a real look at the kind of guy he was, though, and outside the home. And like I said, too, if that's the kind of person he is in public to these students, you can imagine how he was treating the kids and how all these kids between him and Ruby were being literally tortured mentally, physically, emotionally, like spiritually. It's terrible. It's just freaking terrible. Slanderous videos depicting us as villains, creating a false narrative about this family. Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Doesn't seem that way now, though. Seems like everybody was almost like underestimating how bad it was at this point. So really, like, gotta question everything. Don't take the surface level viewpoint of anything, the main official narrative of anything. You really got to question everything. But I guess that's probably good for tonight. What is this? Almost 3 hours in. Okay, yeah, I think that was probably good for this evening, and we will keep an eye on this and follow along with any updates as we go. If you haven't checked out the videos I posted on this, definitely give those a view and get caught up on the whole thing, because we are going to be keeping an eye on this ongoing situation. I know that this might be even a while before it even goes to trial, but we will intermittently revisit this as new things come up, and like I said, I kind of suspect it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better for these kids. Especially because it's playing out on the world stage in such a way, which, you know, I'm almost contributing to that, so I kind of feel a little guilty to be pushing the matter, but I really think that there is a lot that can be learned from it, and I think that we do need to raise this awareness, because just ignoring it and just, sensationalizing it and being like this big media thing and then forgetting all about it is kind of how we've done it over the years, and it's just not the way anymore. I think we really got to be taking a closer look and really, like, as a society, we got to learn from this shit, because it's, like I said earlier too, it's only getting worse, and I don't want to live in a world where it just keeps getting worse. I want to live in a world that I'm working towards change, big major change for these kind of situations and for the kids, you know. But thank you guys for joining me for this, and thank you for your patience in between when I needed to collect myself a bit. I was, definitely got a little emotional there in the between us. There's some heavy stuff, man, and just no matter how you cut it, it's there's no good way to look at it. There's no good way to take it in, and I can only hope that these kids are like I said earlier too, that extra care is put into how they process this and take care of the kids after and get them help with therapy and everything after, because they're gonna need it. But, thank you, Jamie, for joining us and being a big part of it tonight, because I know you know a good amount about this stuff, and being from Utah and having a good understanding of these kinds of organizations and all of that. I appreciate you being a part, not being so much a lurker tonight, and being part of the discussion. Thank you, Siobhan, and everybody else that took part in the discussion tonight. Thank you for the new folks that joined us tonight. Aaron, who else we got in here? Cynthia, Mellow Mango, and any other new folks that joined just for the lurking. Twiley, you're still here. Whoever else is still here. Let me see. Whatever. You guys know. You guys know who you are. All you true blues. I appreciate the heck out of yous. And big shiny love to you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Not sure when we'll get on an next stream here, but I will. I think doing these, the upcoming stream thing has been a good way to do it and let you guys know well enough ahead of time. And, yep. It was a heavy duty, so I appreciate you guys for being here and sticking it out right to the end. Big shiny love. And, yeah, I will catch you on the flip side.